Good evening and welcome to Monday Night Playhouse. I'm Damiano Pietropaolo and I am here at the Royal George Theatre in Niagara-on-the-Lake, home of the Shaw Festival. I'm here with Artistic Director Jackie Maxwell for the fourth of this season's Bell Canada Reading Series. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Damiano.
I gather we're waiting for the appearance of a very special guest.
Oh, we are indeed. And he's somewhat late, I fear.
You have a full house waiting for him. I hope he's not far away.
Well, Gilbert Keith Chesterton was never known for his predictability.
Ah, yes. GKC, friend and foe of Mr. Bernard Shaw himself.
Very much. Mr. Chesterton was an icon all to himself. A giant, really, in modern literature.
Mm-hmm.
He was an essayist, critic, poet, novelist, social commentator, extremely controversial, like his pal Bernard Shaw, and very, very funny.
And will he be reading from his own works?
Oh, yes, ably assisted by one of our veteran actors, Mr. Neil Barclay, and it was all put together by Mr. Tony Van Bridge.
One of the Shaw Festival's most revered and senior actors.
Yes, with his own history and contribution to Canadian theatre that is a story in itself.
And maybe destined for radio, too.
Oh, that would be nice.
He really is quite late.
I'm wondering if... wait, I think...
I must apologize for being late. But since I had to give up my seat on the bus to two ladies, I decided to walk. Now, I am firmly of the opinion that I was born on the 29th of May, 1874, on Camden Hill, Kensington, and baptized in the little church of St. George, opposite the large waterworks tower that dominates that ridge. I indignantly deny that the church was chosen because it needed the whole water power of West London to turn me into a Christian. The very first thing I can ever remember seeing with my own eyes was a young man walking across a bridge. He had a curly moustache and an attitude of confidence verging on swagger. He carried in his hand a disproportionately large key of a shining yellow metal, and wore a large golden or gilded crown. The bridge he was crossing on sprang on the one side from the edge of a highly perilous mountain chasm, and at the other end it joined the upper part of the tower of an almost excessively castellated castle. In the castle tower there was one window, out of which a young lady was looking. I cannot remember in the least what she looked like, but I will do battle with anyone who denies her superlative good looks. To those who may object that such a scene is rare in the home life of house agents living immediately to the north of Kensington High Street, I shall be compelled to admit not that the scene was unreal, but that I saw it through a window much more wonderful than the window in the tower. I saw it through the proscenium arch of a toy theatre constructed by my father, and that the young man in the crown was about 6 inches high, and proved on investigation to be made of cardboard. I have no shadow of recollection of what the young man was doing on the bridge, or of what he proposed to do with the key, though a later and wearier knowledge of literature and legend hints to me that he was not improbably going to release the lady from captivity. All the rest is gone. Scenes, subject, story, characters. But that one scene glows in my memory like a glimpse of some incredible paradise. And for all I know, I shall still remember it when all other memory is gone out of my mind. Early impressions count considerably in life. All my life I have loved edges and the boundary lines that bring one thing sharply against another, prosceniums and frames, limits. And I will maintain that the largest wilderness looks larger seen through a window. I've said that the toy theatre was made by my father. It is therefore to him that I owe so much for this first picture of life. My father was the head of a hereditary business of house agents and surveyors, which had already been established for some 3 generations in Kensington. My people belonged to that rather old-fashioned English middle class. And one peculiarity of this middle class was that it really was a class, and it really was in the middle. Both for good and evil, and certainly often to excess, It was separated both from the class above it and the class below. It knew far too little of the working classes, to the grave peril of a later generation. It knew far too little even of its own servants. There was a sort of silence and embarrassment between them. A lady of my family went to live in a friend's house during the friend's absence, to be waited on by a sort of superior servant. Now, the lady had got it fixed in her head that the servant cooked her own meals separately, whereas the servant was equally fixed on the policy of eating what was left over from the lady's meals. Now, the servant sent up for breakfast, say, 5 rashers of bacon, which was more than the lady wanted. But the lady had another fixed freak of conscience, common in the ladies of the period. She thought that nothing should be wasted, and could not see that even a thing consumed is wasted if not wanted. She ate the 5 rashers. The servant consequently sent up 7 rashers. The lady paled a little, but followed the path of duty and ate them all. The servant, beginning to feel that she too would like a little breakfast, sent up 9 or 10 rashers. The lady, rallying all her powers, charged at them with her head down and swept them from the field. And so I suppose it went on, owing to the polite silence between the two social classes. I dare not think how it ended. The logical conclusion would seem to be that the servant starved and the lady burst. There's been frequent calls to refer to my size. On the occasion, for instance, of one of my many encounters with my good friend Mr. George Bernard Shaw, he prodded a finger into this ample and now notorious part of my anatomy and said, "What are you going to call it?" I said, well, if it's a girl, I shall call it Elizabeth. If it's a boy, I shall call it Gilbert Keith. But if it's just wind, I shall call it George Bernard Shaw. And on a similar occasion, I patted Shaw on his non-existent tummy and said, "I see there's been a famine." And he patted me back and said, "Yes, and we can see why, can't we?" But to return to my beginnings, the old middle class really was an educated class. It attached rather too much importance to spelling correctly. It attached enormous importance to speaking correctly, and it did spell and speak correctly. There was a whole world in which nobody was more likely to drop an H than to pick up a title. And this care about education and diction, though I can see much to criticize in it now, did have its good side. It meant my father knew all his English literature backwards, and that I knew a great deal of it by heart long before I could get it into my head. I knew pages of Shakespeare's blank verse without a notion of the meaning of most of it, which is perhaps the right way to begin to appreciate verse. And it's also recorded of me that at the age of 6 or 7 I walked down the street excitedly reciting the words, "Good Hamlet, cast this nighted colour off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust." At which appropriate moment I tripped and pitched forward on my nose. I used to say that the account of my own life ought to consist of a series of short stories like those of Sherlock Holmes. Only his were astonishing examples of observation and mine astonishing examples of lack of observation. The tale is told that I once sent a telegram to my wife in London which read, "Am in Market Harborough. Where ought I to be?" I cannot remember whether this story is true, but it's not unlikely, or I think unreasonable. Perhaps it would be the exaggeration of eulogy to call me a tidy person. But I can always pretty satisfactorily account for all my possessions. I can always tell where they are and what I've done with them, so long as I can keep them out of my pockets. If once anything slips into these unknown abysses, I wave it a sad Virgilian farewell. The same presumption applies to the things I dropped into the sea. They tell us that on the last day the sea will give up its dead, and I suppose that on that same occasion long strings of extraordinary things will come running out of my pockets. But I've forgotten what any of them are. A railway ticket. 3rd class, Oxford to London. I'm going to tell you a story. I will not say that this story is true, because as you will soon see, it is all truth and no story. It has no explanation and no conclusion. It is, like most of the other things we encounter in life, a fragment of something else which would be intensely exciting if it were not too large to be seen. My experience was a fragment of this nature, and it is at any rate not fictitious. Not only am I not making up the incidents, what there were of them, but I'm not making up the atmosphere or the landscape, which were the whole horror of the thing. I remember them vividly, and they were truly as I shall now describe. About noon of an ashen autumn day some years ago, I was standing outside the station at Oxford, intending to take the train to London. And for some reason, out of idleness, or the emptiness of my mind, or the emptiness of the pale grey sky, or the cold, a kind of caprice fell upon me that I would not go by that train at all, but would step out on the road and walk at least part of the way to London. Now, I do not know if other people are made like me in this matter, but for me, it's always dreary weather that stings into life a sense of action and romance. On bright blue days, I do not want anything to happen. The world is complete and beautiful, a thing for contemplation. But when the background of a man's life is a grey background, then I desire to paint on it in fire and gore. So the monotonous weather seemed to render unbearable the use of the monotonous train, and I set out into the country lanes out of the town of Oxford. When I had walked for some hours, the evening was closing in. A sickly sunset clung to the horizon, as if pale with reluctance to leave the world in the dark. And as it faded more and more, the skies seemed to come closer and to threaten. The clouds, which had been merely sullen, became swollen. And then they loosened and let down the dark curtains of the rain. The rain was blinding and seemed to beat like blows from an enemy at close quarters. The skies seemed to be bending over and bawling in my ears. I walked on many more miles before I met a man. In that distance, my mind had been made up, and when I met him, I asked him if anywhere in the neighborhood I could pick up the train for London. He directed me to a small, silent station which stood well away from the road and looked as lonely as a hut on the Andes. I do not think I have ever seen such a thing as that station. It looked as if it had been raining there since the creation of the world. The water streamed from the soaking wood of it as if it were not water at all, but some loathsome liquid corruption of the wood itself, as if the solid station were eternally falling to pieces and pouring away in filth. It took me nearly 10 minutes to find a man in the station. When I did, he was a dull one. And when I asked him if there was a train to London, his answer was sleepy and vague. But as far as I could understand him, he said there would be a train in about half an hour. I sat down and lit a cigar and waited, watching the last tail of the tattered sunset and listening to the everlasting rain. It may have been in half an hour or less that a train came rather slowly into the station. It was an unnaturally dark train. I could not see a light anywhere in the long black body of it, and I could not see any guard, so I was reduced to walking up to the engine and calling out to the stoker to ask if the train was going to London. "Well, yes, sir," he said with an unaccountable kind of reluctance. "It's going to London, but..." And even as he spoke, it was just starting, and I jumped into the first carriage. It was pitch dark. I sat there, smoking and wondering, as we steamed through the continually darkening landscape lined with desolate poplars, until he slowed down and stopped irrationally in the middle of a field. I heard a heavy noise, as if someone clambering off the train, and a dark, ragged head suddenly put itself in the window. "Excuse me, sir," said the stoker, "but I think perhaps you ought to know. There's a dead man in this train. I regret to say I expressed myself politely but firmly to the effect that I didn't care so much as long as the train took me to London. But when it had started again with its unknown burden, I did do one thing, and that quite instinctively, without stopping to think. I threw away my cigar, something that is as old as man and has to do with all mourning and ceremonial, told me to do it. There was something unnecessarily horrible, it seemed to me, in the idea of there being only two men in that train, one of them dead and the other smoking a cigar. And as the red and gold of the butt end of it faded like a funeral torch trampled out at some symbolic moment of a procession, I realized the origin and essence of all ritual. That in the presence of these sacred riddles, about which we can say nothing, it is often more decent merely to do something. And I realize that ritual will always mean throwing away something, destroying our corn or wine upon the altar of the gods. When the train panted at last into Paddington Station, I sprang out of it with a newly released curiosity. There was a barrier of officials guarding the rear part of the train. No one was allowed to press towards it. They were guarding and hiding something, perhaps death in some too shocking form, so mixed up with human mystery and wickedness that the law had to give it a sort of sanctity. I went out gladly enough into the streets and saw the lamps shining on the laughing faces. Nor have I ever known, from that day to this, what strange story I had wandered into, or what frightful thing was my companion in the dark. One day, as I was leaving London for a holiday, a friend walked into my flat in Battersea and found me surrounded with half-packed luggage. "You seem to be off on your travels," he said. "Where are you going?" "To Battersea," I replied. "The wit of your remark escapes me," he said. "I am going to Battersea," I repeated, "via Paris, Heidelberg, and Frankfurt." My remark contained no wit, it contained simple truth. I am going to wander over the whole world until once more I find Battersea. Somewhere in the seas of sunset or of sunrise, somewhere in the ancient archipelago of the earth, there is one little island which I wish to find, an island of low green hills and great white cliffs. Travellers tell me that it is called England. Scottish travellers tell me that it is called Britain. And there is a rumour that somewhere in the heart of it there is a beautiful place called Battersea. "I suppose it's unnecessary to tell you that this is Battersea," said my friend with an air of intellectual compassion. "It's quite unnecessary," I said, "and it is spiritually untrue. I cannot see any Battersea here. I cannot see any London or any England. I cannot see that door. I cannot see that chair, because a cloud of sleep and custom has come across my eyes. The only way to go back to them is to go somewhere else. The whole object of travel is not to set foot in foreign lands. It is at last to set foot on one's own country as a foreign land. The only way to go to England is to go away from it." And when after only a month's travelling I did come back to England, I was startled to find that I had told the exact truth. England did break upon me, at once beautifully new and beautifully old. A poem by me. Before the Roman came to Rye or out to Severn strode, the rolling English drunkard made the rolling English road. A rolling road that rambles round the shire, and after him the parson ran, the sexton and the squire. A merry road, a mazy road, and such as we did tread, the night we went to Birmingham by way of Beachy Head. I knew no harm of Bonaparte and plenty of the squire, and for to fight the Frenchmen I did not much desire. But I did bash their bagonets, because they came arrayed to straighten out the crooked road an English drunkard made, where you and I went down the lane with ale mugs in our hands, the night we went to Glastonbury by way of Goodwin Sands. His sins, they were forgiven him, or why do flowers run behind him, and the hedges all strengthening in the sun. The wild thing went from left to right, and knew not which was which, but the wild rose was above him when they found him in the ditch. God pardon us, nor harden us, we did not see so clear the night we went to Bannockburn by way of Brighton Pier. My friends, we will not go again, nor ape at ancient rage, or stretch the folly of our youth to be the shame of age, but walk with clearer eyes and ears this path that wandereth, and see undrugged in evening light the decent inn of death. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. In the early days, it was my fate to wander over many parts of England, delivering what were politely called lectures. There was a considerable appetite for such bleak entertainment, especially in the north of England, and among certain active nonconformist centres, even in the suburbs of London. Oh, with the mention of bleakness, there comes back to me the memory of one particular chapel, lying in the last featureless wastes to the north of London, to which I actually had to make my way through a blinding snowstorm, which I enjoyed very much because I like snowstorms. I was exposed to the elements for nearly 2 hours, and by the time I arrived at the chapel, I must have roughly resembled the snowman the children make in the garden. I proceeded to lecture, God knows on what, and was about to resume my wintry journey when the worthy minister of the chapel, robustly rubbing his hands and slapping his chest and beaming at me with the rich hospitality of Father Christmas, said in a deep, hearty, fruity voice, "Come, Mr. Chesterton, it's a bitter cold night. Do let me offer you an arrowroot biscuit." I assured him gratefully that I felt no such craving. I confess that the thought of returning through the snow and freezing blast for 2 more hours with the glow of that one biscuit within me, and the arrowroot fire running through my veins, struck me as a little out of proportion. I fear it was with considerable pleasure that I crossed the road and entered a public house immediately opposite the chapel, under the very eyes of the nonconformist conscience. Oh, once I was nearly arrested by 2 excited policemen in Yorkshire. I was on holiday. I was engaged in that rich and intricate mass of pleasures which we disguise by the exoteric name of nothing. At the moment in question, I was throwing a big Swedish knife at a tree, practicing that useful trick by which in Stevenson's romances men murder each other. Suddenly, the forest was full of 2 policemen. They asked what the knife was, who I was, why I was throwing it, what my address was, trade, religion, opinion on the Japanese war, name a favorite cat, and so on. They also said I was damaging the tree, which was, I'm sorry to say, not true because I could not hit it. After some half hour's animated conversation, the exhibition of an envelope, an unfinished poem, which was read with great care, and I trust some profit, the elder of the 2 knights became convinced that I really was what I professed to be. That I was a journalist, that I was on the Daily News, that I lived in a particular place, that I was at present stopping with particular people in Yorkshire who happened to be wealthy and well known in the neighbourhood. The policeman acquitted me and let me pass. But, I said, what of the mangled tree? It was to the rescue of that tree, once a giant of the forest, now splintered and laid low by the brute superiority of a Swedish knife, that you rushed like knights errant. The facts of which I have just convinced you, that my name is Chesterton and that I am living with the well-known and philanthropic Mr. Blank of Ilkley, cannot have anything to do with the question of whether I have been guilty of cruelty to vegetables. I made the larger part of this speech to the empty wood, for the 2 policemen had vanished almost as quickly as they had come. It's very possible, of course, that they were elves. In that case, The somewhat illogical character of their view of crime, law, and personal responsibility would find a bright and elvish explanation. Perhaps if I had lingered in the glade till moonrise, I might have seen rings of tiny policemen dancing on the sward, or running about with glowworm lamps, arresting grasshoppers for damaging blades of grass. But taking the bolder hypothesis that they really were policemen, I found myself in a certain difficulty. I was certainly accused of something which was either an offence or was not. I was let off because it was proved I was a guest at a well-known house. The inference seems painfully clear. Either it is not a proof of infamy to throw a knife about in a lonely wood, or else it is a proof of innocence to know a rich man. Some time ago, while I was meditating upon morality, I was, so to speak, snatched up and put in a jury box to try people. I was put into this jury box because I lived in Battersea and my name began with the C. Looking round me, I saw that there were also summoned and in attendance in the courts whole crowds and processions of men, all of whom lived in Battersea and all of whose names began with the C. It seems that they always summon jurymen in this sweeping alphabetical way. At one official blow, Battersea is denuded of all its C's and left to get on as best it can with the rest of the alphabet. We settle down with a rollicking ease in our seats, for we are a devil-may-care race, the C's of Battersea. And an oath was administered to us in an almost inaudible manner. We understood, however, that we were to well and truly try the case between our sovereign lord the king and the prisoner at the bar, neither of whom had as yet put in an appearance. Just as I was wondering whether the king and the prisoner were perhaps coming to an amicable understanding in some adjoining public house, the prisoner's head appeared above the barrier of the dock. He was accused of stealing bicycles and was the great image of a good friend of mine. We did well and truly try the case between the king and the prisoner, and we came to the conclusion that the king was in no way implicated. Then we passed on to a woman who had neglected her children, and who looked as if somebody or something had neglected her. Never have I stood so close to pain. And out of this came a curious realization of a political or social truth. I saw with an indescribable kind of clearness what a jury really is and why we must never let it go. The trend of our epoch has been consistently towards specialism and professionalism. We tend to have trained soldiers because they fight better, trained singers because they sing better, trained dancers because they dance better, and so on and so on. And the principle has been applied to law and politics. Now, one of the 4 or 5 paradoxes which should be taught to every infant prattling at his mother's knee is the following: that the more a man looks at a thing, the less he can see it. And the more a man learns a thing, the less he knows it. It is a terrible business to mark out a man for vengeance, but it is a thing to which a man can grow accustomed, as he can to other terrible things. The horrible thing about all legal officials, even the best, about all judges, magistrates, barristers, detectives, and policemen, is not that they're wicked. Some of them are quite good. Not that they're stupid. Several of them are quite intelligent. It's simply that they've got used to it. Strictly, they do not see the prisoner in the dock. All they see is the usual man in the usual place. They do not see their awful court of judgment. They see only their own workshop. Therefore, the instinct of Christian civilization has most wisely declared that into their judgments there shall upon every occasion be infused fresh blood and fresh thoughts from the streets. Men shall come in who can see the court and see the crowd, and the coarse faces of policemen and professional criminals, the wasted faces of the wastrels, the unreal faces of the gesticulating counsel, and see it all as one sees a new picture or a play hitherto unvisited. Our civilization has decided that determining the guilt and innocence of men is a thing too important to be trusted to trained men. It wishes for light upon that awful matter, so it asks men who know no more law than I know, but who can feel the things that I felt in that jury box. When it wants a library catalogued or a solar system discovered or any trifle of that kind, it uses up its specialists. But when it wishes anything done which is really serious, it collects 12 ordinary men. The same thing was done, if I remember correctly, by the founder of Christianity. Another poem. The Donkey. When fishes flew and forests walked and figs grew upon thorn, some moment when the moon was blood, then surely I was born. With monstrous head and sickening cry, and ears like errant wings, the devil's walking parody on all four-footed things. The tattered outlaw of the earth, of ancient crooked will, starve, scourge, deride me, I am dumb, I keep my secret still. Fools! For I also had my hour, one far fierce hour and sweet. There was a shout about my ears, and palms before my feet. When people ask me, or indeed anybody else, why did you join the Church of Rome? The first essential answer, if it is partly an elliptical answer, is to get rid of my sins. For there is no other religious system that does really profess to get rid of people's sins. It's confirmed by the logic, which to many seems startling, by which the Church deduces that sin confessed and adequately repented is actually abolished, and that the sinner does really begin again, as if he had never sinned. And this brought me sharply back to those visions of childhood. The indescribable and indestructible certitude in the soul that those first years of innocence were the beginning of something worthy, perhaps more worthy than any of the things that actually followed them. I spoke of the strange daylight, which was something more than the light of common day, that still seems in my memory to shine on those steep roads down from Camden Hill, from which one could see the Crystal Palace from afar. Well, when a Catholic comes from confession, he does truly, by definition, step out again into that dawn of his own beginning and look with new eyes across the world to a Crystal Palace that really is of crystal. He believes in the dim corner and in that brief ritual. God has really remade him in his own image. He's now a new experiment of the Creator. He's as much a new experiment as he was when he was 5 years old. He stands, as I said, in the white light at the worthy beginning of the life of a man. The accumulations of time can no longer terrify. He may be grey and gouty, but he is only 5 minutes old. I've sometimes been haunted with a vague story about a wild and fantastic uncle, the enemy of parents and the cause of revolution in the nurseries, who went about preaching a certain theory. I mean, the theory that all the objects which children use at Christmas for what we call riotous or illegitimate purposes were originally created for those purposes, and not for the humdrum household purposes which they now serve. For instance, we will suppose that the story begins with a pillow fight in a night nursery, and boys buffeting and bashing each other with those white and shapeless clubs. The uncle, who would be a professor of immense learning and even greater imagination and inventiveness, would proceed to make himself unpopular with parents and popular with children by proving that the pillow in prehistoric art is obviously designed to be a club. That the sham fight in the night nursery is actually more ancient and authoritative than the whole institution of beds and bedclothes. That in some innocent morning of the world, such cherubim warred on each other with such clouds, possibly made of white samite, mystic, wonderful, and stuffed with feathers from the angel's wings. And that it was only afterwards, when weariness fell upon the world and the young gods had grown tired of their godlike sports, that they slept with their heads upon these weapons. And so, by a gradual dislocation of the whole original purpose of a pillow, it came to be recognized as having its proper place on a bed. Any number of these legends could be launched with ease and grace and general gratification. It would be urged to eagerly assenting little boys that catapults are really older and more majestic than windows. Windows were merely targets set up for catapults. Clear and fragile, that such archaic archers might be rewarded with a crash and sparkle of crystal. That it was only after the oppressive priesthood of the Middle Paleolithic had ruthlessly suppressed the catapult culture that people had gradually come to use the now useless glass targets for purposes of light and ventilation. Similarly, butter was originally used solely for the purpose of making butter slides in the paths of parents and guardians. And it was only by a late accident in the life of some prominent, though prostrate citizen who happened to lick the pavement that its edible qualities were discovered. True, I cannot set forth here in any great detail any actual proofs of these prehistoric origins, but it seems to me we have as much right to imagine cheerful origins as, for instance, Dr. Freud has to imagine gloomy ones. And we beg to announce with the same authority that everything began with a celestial pillow fight of cherubs, and that the whole world was made entirely for the games of children. Mentioning an uncle is enough to recall even wider memories. One of my first is playing in the garden under the care of a girl with ropes of golden hair, to whom my mother called out from the house, "You are an angel," which I was disposed to accept without metaphor. She's now living in Vancouver as Mrs. Kidd. I was once interviewed on one of those programs on the wireless in which the person being interrogated was asked a series of standard questions, among which was the following. If you were marooned on a desert island, which book would you most like to have with you? Naturally, many who were asked this question answered it variously. Some said Shakespeare, Milton, Dickens, and so on. Not a few said the Bible. I must confess I took a different view of this matter, and I said that should I find myself under such circumstances, the book I would most like to have with me would be Thomson's Guide to Practical Boat Building. There was another time when I was asked what I thought of Mr. George Bernard Shaw. I had no difficulty in answering that I thought of Mr. George Bernard Shaw very much as I had always thought of him. I actually wrote a book about him in the ancient days, and I'm happy to say that he reviewed it himself. With the typical opening, "This is the best work of literary art that I have yet provoked." I was destined to see some of Shaw's skylarking on one occasion, and to be privileged to play the fool with him far from the political platform, if not so very far from the theatrical stage. It began by Bernard Shaw coming to my house in Beaconsfield in the heartiest spirits and proposing that we should appear together, disguised as cowboys, in a film of some sort projected by Sir James Barrie. I will not describe the purpose or character of the performance, because nobody ever discovered it, with the exception, presumably, of Sir James. But throughout the proceedings, even Barrie had the appearance of concealing his secret from himself. All I could gather was that two other well-known persons, Lord Howard de Walden and Mr. William Archer, the grave Scottish critic and translator of Ibsen, had also consented to be cowboys. "Well," I said, after a somewhat blank pause of reflection, God forbid that anyone should say that I could not see a joke if Mr. William Archer could see it. Then, after a pause, I asked, "But what is the joke?" Shaw replied with hilarious vagueness that nobody knew what the joke was. That was the joke. The mysterious proceeding divided itself into two parts. One consisted of an appointment in a sort of abandoned brickfield somewhere in the wilds of Essex, in which spot, it was alleged, our cow-punching costumes were already concealed. The other consisted of an invitation to supper at the Savoy to talk things over with Barry and Granville Barker. I kept both these melodramatic assignations, and though neither of them threw any light upon what we were supposed to be doing, they were both very amusing in their way, and rather different from what one might have expected. We went down to the wasteland in Essex, and found our Wild West equipment. But considerable indignation was felt against William Archer, who, with true Scottish foresight, arrived there first and put on the best pair of trousers. They were indeed a magnificent pair of fur trousers, while the other three riders of the prairie had to be content with canvas trousers. A running commentary upon this piece of individualism continued throughout the afternoon, while we were being rolled in barrels, roped over fake precipices, and eventually turned loose in a field to lasso wild ponies, which were so tame that they ran after us instead of our running after them, and nosed in our pockets for pieces of sugar. Whatever may be the strain on credulity, it's also a fact that we all got onto the same motor bicycle, the wheels of which were spun round under us to produce the illusion of hurtling like a thunderbolt down the mountain pass. When the rest finally vanished over the cliffs, clinging to the rope, they left me behind as a necessary weight to secure it. And Granville Barker kept calling out to me to register self-sacrifice and register resignation, which I did with such wild and sweeping gestures as occurred to me, not, I am proud to say, without general applause. Now, about this time, Barry, with his little figure behind his large pipe, was standing about in an impenetrable manner, and nothing could extract from him the faintest indication of why we were being put through these ordeals. It was as if the smoke that rose from that pipe was a vapor not only of magic, but of black magic. But the other half of the mystery was, if possible, more mysterious. It was all the more mysterious because it was public, not to say crowded. I went to the Savoy supper under the impression that Barry and Barker would explain to a small party some small part of the scheme. Instead of that, I found the stage of the Savoy Theater thronged with nearly everybody in London, as the society papers say when they mean everybody in society. From the Prime Minister, Mr. Asquith, to the most cryptic Oriental attaché, they were all there dining at little tables and talking about everything but the matter at hand. At least, they were all there except Sir James Barry, who on this occasion made himself almost completely invisible. Towards the end of the meal, Sir Edward Elgar casually remarked to my wife, "I suppose you know you're being filmed all this time." From what I know of my wife, it's unlikely that she was brandishing a champagne bottle or otherwise attracting social attention. But some of them were throwing bread about and showing marked relaxation from the cares of state. Then the original four, whom destiny had selected for a wild western life, were approached with private instructions, which worked out in public as follows. The stage was cleared, and the company adjourned to the auditorium, where Bernard Shaw harangued them in a furious speech with savage gesticulations, denouncing Barker and Barry, and finally drawing a sword. The other three of us rose at this signal, also brandishing swords, and stormed the stage, going out through the back scenery. And there we, whoever we were, disappear forever from the record and reasonable understanding of mankind. For never from that day to this has the faintest light been thrown on the reasons for our remarkable behavior. I have since heard in a remote and roundabout way a certain vague suggestion to the effect that there was some symbolical notion of our vanishing from real life and being captured or caught up in the film world of romance, being engaged through all the rest of the play in struggling to fight our way back to reality. Whether this was the idea, I have never known for certain. I only know that I received immediately afterwards a friendly and apologetic note from Sir James Barrie saying that the whole scheme was going to be dropped. I do not know, but I have often wondered, and have sometimes fancied that there was another sense, darker than my own fancy, in which the secret put in Barry's pipe had ended in smoke. There had really been a sort of unearthly unreality in all the levity of those last hours, like something high and shrill that might crack. And it did crack. I've sometimes wondered whether it was felt that this fantasy of fashionable London would appear incongruous with something that happened some days later. For what happened then was that a certain ultimatum went out from the Austrian government against Serbia. I rang up Maurice Baring at a further stage of that rapidly developing business, and I can remember the tones of his voice when he said, "We've got to fight. They've all got to fight. I don't see how anybody can help it." If the cowboys were indeed struggling to find the road back to reality, they found it all right. The aim of life is appreciation. There's no sense in not appreciating things. And there's no sense in having more of them if you have less appreciation of them. I once said that a Cockney lamppost painted pea green was better than no light or no life, and that if it was a lonely lamppost, we might really see its light better against the background of the dark. The modern millionaire comes bustling along the street to tell me he is an optimist and has 2,005,000 new lampposts, already painted not a Victorian pea green, but a futuristic chrome yellow and electric blue, and that he will plant them over the whole world in such numbers that nobody will notice them, especially as they will all look exactly the same. And I cannot quite see what the optimist has got to be optimistic about. A lamppost can be significant although it is ugly. But he's not making lampposts significant, he's making them insignificant. In short, as it seems to me, it matters very little whether a man is discontented if his discontent paralyzes his power of appreciating what he has got. The real difficulty of man is not to enjoy lampposts or landscapes, not to enjoy dandelions or chops, but to enjoy enjoyment, to keep the capacity of really liking what he likes. That is the practical problem which the philosopher has to solve. And it seemed to me at the beginning, as it seems to me now in the end, that the pessimists and optimists of the modern world have alike missed and muddled the matter through leaving out the ancient conception of humility and the thanks of the unworthy. And as I begin to believe more and more that a clue was to be found in such principles, even if it was a paradox, I was more and more disposed to seek out those who specialized in humility, though for them it was the door of heaven, and for me, the door of earth. For me, my end is my beginning, and this overwhelming conviction that there is one key which can unlock all doors brings me back to my first glimpse of the glorious gift of the senses and the sensational experience of sensation. And there starts up again before me, standing sharp and clear as in old, the figure of a man who crosses a bridge and who carries a key, as I saw him when I first looked into fairyland through the window of my father's toy theater. Thank you, and good day.
You've been listening to GKC by Tony Van Bridge, the last in this year's Bell Canada Reading Series from the Shaw Festival. It was based on the writings of G.K. Chesterton and adapted and directed by Christopher Newton and Tony Van Bridge. In the part of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, you heard Neil Barclay. The Bell Canada Reading Series is recorded live at the Royal George Theater in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, with special thanks going to Bill Talbot, Jim Smagata, and Christine Oakey. The recording engineer was Joe Mahoney, and the producer of the Bell Canada Reading Series is Barbara Worthy. That's it for tonight.
The Columbia Workshop, under the direction of William N. Robeson. Tonight, the Columbia Workshop presents Sir Cedric Hardwicke, Helena Picard, Lady Hardwicke in Private Life, and Whitfoot Kane in Never Come Monday, a comedy of Yorkshiremen by Eric Knight, which appeared in the recent issue of Esquire. This English story, written by an Englishman, adapted for radio by another Englishman, Stephen Fox, played by an all-English cast, but presented in American radio technique, will be followed next week by an English play to be presented in typical British radio technique, about which more will be said in half an hour. Sir Cedric Hardwicke, who is now appearing in Shadow and Substance of the Golden Theater in New York, will be heard in tonight's broadcast as Capper Wambley. Helena Picard, Lady Hardwicke, as Mary, his wife, and Whitfoot Kane, who plays the role of a shoemaker in The Shoemaker's Holiday at New York's Mercury Theater, plays the role of Sam Small. The Columbia Workshop presents Never Come Monday.
Capper Wembley!
Aye.
Aren't I deaf, man?
No, but I will be if I can see nothing like that.
Come and have that tea, man. It's 4:30 in the morning.
Mary? There's somewhat wrong.
Aye, but there'll be something worse wrong if I don't stir these stumps and whack John Willie Braithwaite so as he can get steam up at mill.
Now, after me, Mary. When I went out to see how the weather was, I felt somewhat strange about day.
Aye? What was wrong with it?
Mary, I believe today's still Sunday.
But how can that be? Yesterday was Sunday.
Ah, you're right. It don't seem reasonable and proper that we should have 2 Sundays in a row, but...
By gum, this is a champion do it, isn't all. No doubt something should be done about it.
Ah, but what? Mary, I have it. Now, the thing to do to prove it is to decide what's the difference between a Sunday morning and a weekday morning.
Ah, well, that's easily done. On a weekday morning, they takes their knocker and they goes about the village of Allaby Brig and wackens folks up to go to work at mill. And on Sunday morning, they don't waken them up.
There have it. And if I don't wacken the village this morning, it is a Sunday morning.
Aye, nothing could be fairer than that.
Ah, that's it, all right. Because I'm not whacking anybody up, it must be a Sunday morning. And because it's a Sunday morning, I mustn't wacken anybody up. So no matter which way a lad looks at it, answers it, comes out, it's Sunday.
Aye, but Capper, some of the people may wake up of their own accord. And if they don't know that it's the second Sunday in a row, they may go walking down to the mill.
Ah, there's reason in that, Mary.
Heaven knows they've got to get up early enough. And it's a terrible shame not to let them have this extra piece of rest that's come by a miracle like.
Ah, Mary, but what's to do?
Why don't they go down and wacken them up and tell them it's still Sunday? Then they can go back to sleep again.
Mary, it's a grand thing for a man with an important job like mine to have a wife like you. I'll take my knocker and go at once and wacken the village and tell them good news. John Willie Braithwaite, or who's lad?
I'm whacking. What time is it?
Well, thou needn't fret thyself about time, John Willie. I just whackened thee up to tell thee it's another Sunday morning, so thou can go back to the bed and sleep in peace. There's no need of you blowing the mill whistle this morning. That was good. Hey, I didn't disturb him at all. He wasn't more than half awake. Tabby Welsh, or Cook Tabby Welsh.
Capper, hold on, noise. I'm up.
Well, thou needn't be. It's Sunday morning again. Get back to the rest.
How does mean it's Sunday again?
I've no time to talk. I must be on my round.
Capper, wait, come back here. Capper!
Liz Barrett!
Aye, I'm up, Capper. But it seems like I just went to bed.
The work too hard less. But today's Sunday again, so they can go back to their bed and have an extra hour or 2.
Sunday again? But Capper...
I'm sorry, Les, but I have no time. I must keep on.
Here he comes now. Hey, come here, Capper.
Hey, come here, lad. What's all fuss about?
Now, lad, what's the idea of telling us that this is another Sunday?
Aye, Capper. Well, it is.
How does I know it is?
Well, I can't explain it, but I'm full sure something very wonderful has happened. And it is Sunday.
Now, look here, Capper. I don't admit that it does seem Sunday-ish like, but are we to be sure?
Well, now. Now, here's the way us can tell. Now, if this be a weekday, the mill whistle will blow the quarter of hour before working time.
That's right.
And if this be Sunday, like I say, the mill whistle won't blow the quarter hour. Well, it
Well, it seems like they'll be right.
To be sure he's right.
Aye, his milk whistle has never missed in 20 years that I know.
Aye, Capper has an edge on him.
Now, look here, lads. Now, knows my watch, don't they?
Aye, it's a good one, too.
The best old village in Allaby Rig.
Well, gather ye around and look at it.
Yeah, don't push it now.
Who's pushing?
Here, hold on now, hold on, that's enough. You can't all see it. Can thou see it, Gulliker?
Aye, I can, Capper.
Well, now, what does it say?
It lacks 20 seconds to the quarter hour.
Now, Gulliker, thou can call out the seconds, and if the whistle doesn't blow, it must be Sunday.
Hold your gap. 2 seconds, 8 seconds is gone. 10 seconds. 13. 16. 18. 20. It's the quarter hour.
Did anybody hear it whistle?
No, I didn't hear it.
Then it is Sunday.
Gum, that's right, Capper.
Of course he's right. Good.
Now, you can all stay home and get away and get another hour's sleep. I must be on my way. Is that there, Rolly?
It is, Capper. I hear that it's discovered this is another Sunday.
Ah, that's so.
Well, isn't having 2 Sundays in a row just a very little bit irregular, as I might say?
It is that, lad. But thou must remember us is living in very unusual times.
We are that. And I'm glad they discovered it in time, for if they hadn't, I would have gone and rung school bell like great lummox thinking it were Monday. But now I know it's Sunday, I must go and ring church bell.
Yeah, that sounds right, lad.
But, Capper, dost thou think that the mill workers who live outside Allaby Brig know it's Sunday? They may be at mill gates waiting to go to work thinking it's Monday.
Lad, that's right. I'll go to mill and tell them.
Hey, Capper, and I'll go ring church bell. Thank ye, Capper.
Yeah, that's all right, lad. Hey, lads, what you doing there? Why aren't you home in your beds?
In our beds? We've come to work.
We'll come to work.
But there's no work today.
Last mill closed up.
No, today's Sunday.
Sunday? Well, if it's Sunday in Allaby Brig, what day is it in Wuxley Green, where I come from?
And in Rumback Marketplace.
And in Tannerley.
Well, happen it's Sunday there, too, and you didn't notice it. When a couple of Sundays come in a row, you could hardly blame a chap for mistaking the second one for Monday. So I advise you to go back home and enjoy Sunday.
Now, look here. What's going on? What's the idea you ain't all in the mill?
Well, because his second Sunday has arrived, Mr. Bloggs.
Nonsense. When I left home, it was a Monday. How can it be Sunday here when it was Monday at my home in Feddersley?
I don't right know, Mr. Bloggs, unless it happens to be Sunday in Puttersley, too, and I didn't notice it.
It's Monday, I tell you. Now, come on into work. How can it be 2 Sundays in a row?
Listen. There go church bells.
That proves it's Sunday. Be sent to work on Sunday.
Aye, and I'm going home to dress for church.
Mr. Sims. Yes, Mr. Stoninghorn. Why are you playing the organ? Because it's Sunday. Sunday? But yesterday was Sunday. I know, Mr. Stoninghorn. But I was on my way to the schoolhouse when I heard the church bell. When I got here, all the people were in the church, so it must be Sunday. That's right. It must be. The people are waiting for you to preach the sermon. But wait a minute, Mr. Sims. If this is Sunday, is it the 4th or the 5th Sunday before Epiphany? I couldn't tell you that, Mr. Stoninghorn. Well, Mr. Sims, there's only one thing to do. I'll give the same service and preach the same sermon as I did yesterday. I should think that would be right and proper.
Aye, that was a grand sermon, Mr. Stoninghorn preached.
Hey, I liked it right thought nicer hearing it for second time.
So did I. Today you could see just where 'twas going, in a manner of speaking.
Hey. Oh, look here, lad. Here comes Mr. Bloggs.
Look here. No use pretending any longer. Today's Monday.
But, Mr. Bloggs, how can it be Monday? We're just coming out of church.
But I got proof. I telephoned the Greenwich Observatory, and they told me that today's Monday.
Well, it may be Monday in Greenwich, but we know that it's Sunday here in Allaby Brig.
Well, all the stupid, blundering, idiotic people off this.
Mr. Bloggs, the Sabbath cannot be profaned with quarrelling.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stoneyhorn, but hear me, sir. Today may be Sunday, but you have to admit that it's a bit unusual to have 2 Sundays in a row.
Yes, there is something in what you say, Mr. Bloggs.
I agrees with Mr. Bloggs. I knows it's Monday, because I runs public house. And I had to close up early yesterday because 'twas Sunday.
He wants it to be Monday so he won't have to shut up his public house early tonight.
Hey, let me put in my heifer.
What is it really, Helliker?
There's a man here whose opinion we all set great store by. He has a brain, he has. He invented something and made a lot of money out of it. And he's a great traveller. Not only has he been to London, but to foreign lands as well on a cruise. If there's any man who knows what day it is, it's Sam Small.
Sam Small, let's hear Sam. Come on, Sam, let's hear Sam.
Lads, here I am. Well, lads, it's this way. A day's a day, and then again it isn't, in a manner of speaking. The time I went round toward, one day it was Tuesday, and the next morning the captain said it was Thursday. And so it were, because I've never yet found that lost day. And on the other hand, a lad aboard ship told me if we'd gone round the world t'other way, we should have had 2 Tuesdays. Now, if you can have 2 Tuesdays when we're going round world, I maintain we might just as easy have 2 Sundays when the world is going round us, which every scientist knows it is doing.
That's a lot of people.
Oh, aye. Well, can you tell me what day it is now in Japan?
It's Monday.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Bloggs, just as a matter of academic accuracy, but in Japan now it is Tuesday.
Tuesday?
There, thou seest. There don't seem to me no sense in this day stuff. If it's Monday, as thou sayest down at Greenwich, and if it's Tuesday, as the schoolmaster says in Japan, then I says it's just as liable to be Sunday up here.
Fiddlesticks. If this is Sunday, then what's tomorrow? Is it Monday or Tuesday? Or do we lose a day?
Yeah, happen I'll be the man to clear that up.
Hold on a minute now. Let Capper speak.
What does he think? Us doesn't skip no day at all. The thing is that the days of the week have got tired of turning, so now they stood still and won't go no further, they won't.
Ridiculous. If that was so, we'd get no further. And tomorrow'd be Sunday too, wouldn't it?
By gum, lad, thou's it nail on head. Tomorrow's off to be Sunday.
God bless Sunday, never come Monday.
Never come Monday.
You sent for me, sir? Yes. Come. Sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Jenkins, our newspaper has never broken faith with its readers.
No, sir.
Don't interrupt. I sent for you because, for a reporter, you seem to have some intelligence. Now, about this day business. It's gone too far. It's spread to Wales and to Ireland. Everywhere, from Land's End to John of Groats. Every day is Sunday. Now, we must find out what has happened to those lost weekdays. It seems it all began in Yorkshire. Now, I want you to go there and sift this thing out.
Come in, lads, come in.
Aye, Capper.
Oh, that's Capper.
Mary! Put the kettle on for tea. Joan Caulfield and Rolly Elliker come to see us.
I'm right glad to see you, lad.
Hey, Mary, if we get some tea, happen Ian could take a bite.
Aye, Ian's not only the strongest man in Yorkshire, but he's got the biggest appetite.
Aye, and with rest I'm having, I'm getting stronger than ever.
Hey, Capper, why, only today over at Wuxley Green, he took a 2-inch iron bar and bent it with his bare hands. Oh, I should have seen the Wuxley men go.
Aye, that's champion. What were you doing in Wuxley Green?
Jan and me walked over to have a pint of ale at pub.
That's the only trouble about every day being Sunday. I can't get a drink in the own village. The law says I must be a traveller to get a drink of a Sunday.
But that's not trouble. 3 mile walk does man good, and then there's drink at end, or?
Hey, Capper, they should see the people on road. Men and women and children coming from Wuxley Green to Allaby Brig and going from Allaby Brig to Wuxley Green.
People at all villages for miles round are getting to know one another.
And all the folk laughing and talking and enjoying themselves. Oh, it do you good to look at 'em.
I know. I saw the village myself, and it give me a right warm feeling to see the women sitting in the sun and the men fixing their gardens and the children romping and playing.
There ain't a sick body at village.
Nay, because folk are out in fresh air. They ain't cooped up in mills.
And it's all due to you, Capper.
Why, lad, Allaby Brig and all Yorkshire is proud of you.
It's nothing, lads. It's nothing, lads.
Well, weren't you the first man in the land to notice that days of the week were stuck and every day was turning up Sunday?
Well, all I can say is I'm right glad it is so.
Hey, someone's at door, Capper.
Come in.
Does Mr. Capper Wambley live here?
He do.
Which of you gentlemen is Mr. Wambley?
I am.
Well, my name is Jenkins. I represent the London newspaper, the Daily Clarion.
Oh, aye. Sit down, sir. This is Rowley Elliker, and this is Joan Caulfield, strongest man in Yorkshire.
How do you do, gentlemen?
And what can I do for you, sir?
Well, I understand that you are the man who discovered that the days had stopped turning.
That's right.
He did.
Well, Mr. Wambley, how did you find this out?
I don't know. But I know that every day is Sunday.
That's right.
Well, how did you arrive at this conclusion?
I don't rightly know, but it is.
Well, haven't you some explanation?
No, I haven't. But I know the days are stuck.
But surely... Why, this is ridiculous. I never heard of such a thing.
Stop! Has there got a pen, Mr. Newspaper Man?
Huh? Why, yes, but what do you want with a penny?
Yes, me.
Why, of course. Here you are.
No. There.
Why, that's wonderful. You bent that penny with the fingers of one hand.
I did. Now, lad, haven't I better telephone paper and tell them that this is Sunday?
Why, yes, of course, indeed, I will. Well, good day, gentlemen.
You fixed them champion, Jan.
As if we don't know it's Sunday.
Prime Minister must do something about this. This situation is unbearable. My employees keep insisting that every day is Sunday.
My men are the same. My firm has a rush order for munitions and gas bombs. But we're at a standstill. The government must act.
I'm afraid we've lost all our contracts for aeroplanes.
Well, I'm a manufacturer of badminton rackets. I don't know how I shall ever make my summer delivery.
Well, we're all in the same... here's the Prime Minister's secretary.
Gentlemen, the Prime Minister will see you now. Please step this way.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Sir. Well, gentlemen?
This is quite an abhorrent state of affairs.
Oh, quite.
Sir, I yield my reverence for religion to no man. To no man, sir. In fact, I am thoroughly approve of religion. 1 day a week. But, Mr. Prime Minister, think of our stockholders. Many are orphans. Many are widows. If our factories don't make money, these poor people will be destitute. Because, always having drawn dividends, they've never had to learn how to work. We can't let them suffer.
Gentlemen, you may rest assured that His Majesty's government will do all within its power to safeguard that industry and commerce that is the backbone of our nation. Indeed, of our empire. Good day, gentlemen.
This way, gentlemen.
Good day, sir. Thank you, sir.
Carrington Smith.
Yes, sir?
It's Sunday today, and it'll be Sunday tomorrow. Pack my things. They're going away for the weekend.
But, sir, what about the international crisis? We have 2 ultimatums which must be answered immediately.
Dear me, that's a nuisance. But all the world knows you can't disturb an Englishman on the weekend. And if this is Sunday, as it seems to me it must be, then I won't be able to answer until the weekend is over.
But when will it stop being Sunday, sir?
Well, Kennington Smith, how long will it take our fastest cruiser squadron to get round to that part of the world which is giving us so much trouble?
Oh, about 36 more hours, sir.
Then I think it will stop being Sunday in about 36 more hours. 36 more hours.
Beautiful day, isn't it, sir?
Yes, Kennington Smith. Nothing like a day in the country to set one up.
Yes, sir. It's such a relief after London.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Yes, Carter?
A wireless message, sir.
I'll give it to Mr. Kennington Smith.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's what you expected, sir.
Let me see it. Kennington Smith, what day is it?
Sunday, sir.
Nonsense. I'm tired of this blundering through policy and its shilly-shallying. If this goes on, we shall have a constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis,
Yes,
sir?
Kennington Smith. So you'd better pack and we'll get back to Downing Street. We must act immediately. I shall issue a statement that His Majesty's government hereby officially declares that today is Friday, and tomorrow shall be officially Saturday. And the days of the weeks must go on officially in their regular and accustomed order.
But isn't this really Sunday, sir? Hasn't a miraculous thing happened that has stopped the days of the week from arriving?
I don't know, my boy, but I do know this. Even if it is Sunday, and we all everywhere decide to call it Monday or Tuesday, then it becomes Monday or Tuesday because we all believe it is Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, yes, I see, sir. Yes, sir. Very good.
Come in to work, men. It's Saturday.
Nay, lad, yesterday was Sunday, so today must be Monday unless us has started slipping and now we're off to have the days backwards.
I think that's right, Capper.
Hey, I think it's still Sunday.
Look here, I've had enough of this. Stop and come to work. The Prime Minister issued a proclamation that today is officially Saturday.
Well, here comes Sam Small. Let's hear what they have to say about it. I say, speak up there.
What's up? Well, Sam, we don't know whether to go to work or not. Some say it's Saturday, and some say it's Monday. And then again, some say it's still Sunday. What has Star to say?
Well, there's nobody but one thing to do, lad, and I'm chapped to do it. Mr. Bloggs, can I use my telephone?
Anything you like if you can settle this thing once for all.
I'll soon settle it. Connect me with His Majesty the King.
Cool, here's a one.
Is this His
Are you
Majesty? Is this His Majesty the King?
Why, Stanley Wells, small lad. If it don't do my heart and soul good to hear thy voice again.
Hold on just half a moment, Your Majesty. Aye, mate. The King speaking Yorkshire.
Aye, he knows all the dialect. It's things like that that make him such a good king.
Aye, the little things like passing laws can be left to lads with naught but brains.
Aye. Yes, Your Majesty. What was that you were saying?
How's that been, Sam, lad?
All right, nicely, thank you, Your Majesty. And thee?
Champion.
I'm glad to hear that, Your Majesty.
Well, Sam, what can I do for thee, lad?
Well, it's this way, Your Majesty. Could they tell me just what day of the week it is with thee?
Sam, I don't monkey with things like that. I'll leave all that to my ministers and such. But I've just got official information from them that today is Saturday.
Well, Your Majesty, if Saturday's good enough for thee, then there's no more argument. Thank you very much, Your Majesty.
Not at all, Sam. And by the way, Sam, there's been several little things lately that I would have liked thy opinion on. It's our royal wish that thou doesn't wait so long before thou calls me up again.
That I will, lad.
Well, so long, Sam.
So long, Your Majesty.
Well, what do you say?
He said that today was Saturday.
Yeah, didn't I tell you? Doesn't that make it Saturday?
Well, the trouble is, it don't feel like Saturday to me.
Oh, blimey, don't tell me you're going to start this all over again. I'll tell you, today is officially Saturday.
Now, wait a minute, lad. Now, I don't work here, so I play no favorites. But I can tell you for sure how you'll all know it's Saturday.
Oh, how can I tell? Come on.
Why, it's simple. You all know that every Saturday morning you get paid week's wages. Now, if this is Saturday, Mr. Bloggs will begin paying each man a week's money.
That's what you think.
And on the other hand, if he don't begin paying you week's brass, it can't be Saturday. And the chances are it'll keep being Sunday for a long time.
It's outrageous.
No, that's fair enough.
All right, Sam has solved it.
Come on, Mr. Bloggs. If it's Saturday, you pay up.
I won't do it. Not a penny will you get from me.
Well, mate, I think it must still be Sunday, so you better go home.
Aye, if it were Saturday, Mr. Bloggs would pay up. Come on.
All right, wait. I'll pay if only to get you stubborn Yorkshiremen to go back to work. I can see it's the only way to get the days of the week started properly again.
Yeah, lads.
What is it, Copper?
But if it's Saturday today, lads, what day is it tomorrow?
It'll be Sunday.
Hey, now, ain't that champion? If it's Sunday, we'll be able to lie abed late and get a bit of extra sleep for a change.
Just heard the Columbia Workshop presentation of Never Come Monday, adapted for radio by Stephen Fox from the short story of the same title by Eric Knight. So Cedric Hardwick was heard as Capper Wembley, Eleanor Picard, Lady Hardwick as Mary Wembley, Whitfoot Kane as Sam Small, and Charles Paul arranged and played the music cues. The entire production was under the direction of William N. Robeson. The Columbia Workshop, which has just presented an English play in American radio technique, will next week present an English play in the British radio technique, when Val Gielgud, production director of the British Broadcasting Corporation, will direct Fours into Seven Won't Go, an original radio drama written by himself and Mr. Stephen King Hall. The Workshop is keenly interested in American listeners' reaction to these two broadcasts, and again ask for your comments and criticism. Please address your communications to the Columbia Workshop, care of the Columbia Network, New York City. The Columbia Workshop will be heard again next Saturday evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, when it presents a radio play in the BBC technique, directed by Mr. Val Gielgud. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Lux presents Hollywood. Lever Brothers Company, the makers of Lux Toilet Soap, bring you the Lux Radio Theater, starring William Holden, Joan Caulfield, Edward Arnold, and Mona Freeman in Dear Wife. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr. William Keeling.
Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's been my experience that it's always difficult to follow a successful story with a successful sequel. But just to prove it can be done, we're bringing you as our play tonight, Dear Wife. I'm sure you all remember the young lieutenant who wrote letters to Dear Ruth, which were so beautifully and romantically answered. That is, he thought he was writing to Ruth. But when he arrived home from overseas, it seemed it was dear little sister Miriam. Well, it all ended happily, and as the curtain descended, Ruth was about to become Dear Wife. As our stars of this sparkling Paramount picture, we have William Holden, Joan Caulfield, Edward Arnold, and Mona Freeman, all recreating their original roles as one of your favorite families. And just as marriage is the perfect sequel to romance, so does the more beautiful complexion follow daily Lux toilet soap care. You know, wives everywhere know they can depend on this complexion care to be Lux Lovely. The curtain rises on Dear Wife, starring William Holden as Bill, Joan Caulfield as Ruth, Edward Arnold as Judge Wilkins, and Mona Freeman as Miriam. It's early morning in the residence of Judge Wilkins in a pleasant suburb of New York. Mrs. Wilkins and her eldest daughter are the first ones down for breakfast.
Oh, hello, Mother. Where's Dad?
Still asleep, dear. He got in very late.
Well, what happened at the political rally?
Well, I wasn't up when he came home, and the morning paper doesn't say.
Smells like popovers.
Uh-huh. Your husband likes them.
Mom, Bill doesn't like to get the things he likes.
Would you mind repeating that, dear?
You know what I mean. Living with my family and not earning an awful lot. Well, he hates having a fuss made over him. And, Mom.
Yes?
Bill's pretty unhappy about the rent we're paying here.
Well, I didn't think it was too much.
Well, that's just it. Bill doesn't think it's enough.
Oh.
It's his pride. And when he finds out that Dad bought me a new dress, well...
Good morning.
Well, good morning, Bill.
Morning, handsome.
I said good morning to you upstairs, but I'll say it again. Good morning, darling.
Morning, Mr. Seacroft.
Hi, Dora.
Popovers for breakfast, Mr. Seacroft.
And not because you like them. We all like them.
Would I have married you otherwise? Thank you, Dora.
Albert phoned Bill. He's picking you up in a few minutes.
Oh, it's too early to have a look at Albert.
When is a good time?
Well, that's a difficult question. Oh, I apologize, Ruth. It's not nice to say that about the man who's in love with my wife.
Oh, stop being silly.
And besides, if my boss didn't love my wife, I'd have to walk to work.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
Miriam.
Miriam, don't tell me you've been outdoors already.
Since 6:30, Mother.
Another petition?
It is not criminal, Ruth, for a citizen to take an active part in the struggle for good government.
But do you think it's a good idea to wake people up to have them sign things?
Well, if the people in this town don't wake up, they'll send another mealy-mouthed fathead to the state senate. And we of the Civic Betterment League refuse to allow George H. Stiver to pick stooges to represent us in Albany.
Good morning, everyone. Good
morning,
Dad. Well, did you hear the good news?
Well, no.
What news, dear?
Well, George Stiver nominated me for state senate. Food should be chewed, Miriam, not gulped.
Yes, Father.
And the caucus approved me unanimously.
Dad,
congratulations.
Miriam, aren't you going to congratulate Dad?
Well, sure. But, Father, you're a municipal judge, and the crime rate in this country has increased 28%. Don't you feel you're needed on the bench?
Oh, I don't think our judicial system is going to collapse if I go to Albany for a few months.
But I'd have to stay here in school, and we'd be separated.
Well, that's an advantage I hadn't thought of.
No.
What your daughter is trying to say, Dad, is that she doesn't approve of Mr. Stiver.
I do not, Father.
Oh, well, he'll be very sorry to hear that. But I've known and respected George Stiver for 20 years. Why, he's one of the most...
Good morning, everybody. Miriam, Mrs. Wilkins.
Good morning.
Ruth.
Hello, Albert.
Well, Senator Wilkins, congratulations.
Thank you, Albert, thank you.
Well, aren't you going to congratulate me?
Oh, well, I'm afraid I hadn't had a chance to tell him, Albert, you know. They made Albert my campaign manager.
I thought you'd be delighted.
Oh, I am. But you being at the bank and all that, I will...
Well, as I always say, if you want a job done well, give it to a busy man. Well, come along, Seacroft. Come along.
Goodbye, funny face.
Goodbye, darling.
It's for you, Judge. Telephone.
Coming.
Miriam, I wish you'd show your father a little more respect.
I'm completely honest with him. Is there a better way of showing respect?
Finish your breakfast.
Oh, that's quite all right, Harvey. Oh, I was just eating my... Who? Bill Seacroft? My son-in-law? You sure there isn't some mistake? Well, of course I'll find out. Yes. I'll call you later. Ruth!
Yes, Dad?
There's a petition out. Does Bill know that he's being run for the state senate?
Bill? Oh, that's ridiculous. He would have told me.
He doesn't know.
Miriam?
Yes, Father?
How do you know Bill doesn't know?
Well, we didn't tell him. Ziggy and I thought that we shouldn't tell him.
Ziggy? Who's Ziggy?
Father. Ziggy's my boyfriend. Oh, golly. Well, I'm terribly late for school, Mother. Goodbye, Father.
Miriam, wait a moment. Miriam!
Dan said you wanted to see me, Albert.
Seacroft, when a man works in a bank, his job is banking.
Very well put, Albert. But what's this all about?
Oh, come, Seacroft, let's not pretend. It so happens I just saw that petition.
Petition?
Nominating you for the state senate against your own father-in-law.
Oh, relax, Albert. It's just my little sister-in-law playing politics instead of hopscotch. I haven't the slightest intention of running against anybody for anything. Now, is that all?
For the moment, yes. Now, go along, Seacroft. I've got to stamp these papers.
Albert.
I said that will be all for now, Seacroft.
Albert, you're stamping your necktie.
And kindly remember that... Ow!
Anybody home?
Oh, good afternoon, Father.
Just good afternoon. Come here.
Yes, Father. I guess I was preoccupied. Did you have a good day in court, Father?
No, terrible. And what's the matter with your arm?
Oh, nothing. Not a thing. Oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day, Father.
Miriam, what have you got behind your back?
Oh, it's just a copy of that weekly paper they throw away. I was going to throw it away, too.
Miriam, you're a good girl to try to spare your father's feelings, but I've already seen that letter they printed.
Oh.
I have been in politics for 25 years, and this is the first time I've been vilified. Stiver, stooge, political fact.
But, Father, you don't...
Civic Betterment League, if they had the courage to sign their names, why, I'd sue them all for criminal libel. Civic Betterment League? Miriam, isn't that the name of the...
Yes, Father.
I see. You don't happen to still be its president?
Oh, no, Father. Secretary.
Oh, I see. And the secretary, it goes without saying, writes the letters and composes such happy phrases as political fathead and stiver stooge.
But, Father, I didn't know you were going to be stiver stooge.
Don't you dare use that expression again.
Harry, what's the trouble, dear?
What's usually the trouble, Edith, this daughter of yours? Have you seen the letter in the shopping news? Oh, hello, Ruth.
Miriam wrote that letter? Father, I honestly feel you're too sensitive for a man in public life.
My public life is fine. It's my home life that's driving me crazy.
Harry, you're losing your temper, dear.
I'm losing my mind.
Well, a happy candidate and his little family.
Hello, darling.
Heartwarming picture. Hiya, baby.
I suppose you've heard about Miriam's petition, Bill.
Yeah, but it didn't go to my head. Say, what's this, a new dress?
Huh? Oh, no, darling. It's just my old beige. I had it dyed and took off the peplum.
Well, it came out fine.
Father, I'm genuinely sorry if I've hurt you.
What do you mean, if you hurt me?
Oh, let's talk about something pleasant.
Hello, Bill.
Hi.
Ruth, that's a lovely dress Dad bought you.
Miriam.
Well, wasn't that pleasant?
You know, a very funny thing happened in court this morning.
So it is a new dress.
Bill, I didn't mean to tell you a lie.
Now, look, Bill, so I bought her a new dress.
Oh, it's perfectly all right. I'll go upstairs and get cleaned up.
Ruth, did I do something wrong?
No, I did.
Now, look, baby, forget the dress. I just don't feel like talking about it.
Oh, Bill, please. I've been very stupid, darling. No dress, not anything is worth seeing you unhappy.
Ruth, would you mind terribly if we moved out, took a room someplace, if we can find one?
Not if you want us to. Was it anything Mom or Dad said?
Oh, no, but you know how I feel about taking favors.
We'll move, Bill. Anytime you say.
There I go, being crazy again, asking you to live in a 2x4 dump just because my pride's bigger than my salary.
Well, wouldn't it solve everything if I got a job?
No, honey, we're not going through that again.
But it would give you a chance to look for something better than the bank.
Look, will you do me a favor?
Of course.
Shut up and kiss me. Yes?
It's your landlord.
Come on in, Dad.
My wife tells me that you're trying to get your rent raised.
Yes, sir.
We like to oblige our tenants, but just look at this room.
Why, it's the nicest room in the whole house.
It hasn't been painted for 4 years.
Well, it doesn't need painting, and the wallpaper's like new.
Now, just look at this carpeting.
But it's fine carpeting. It's hardly worn at all.
And as for this radio we gave you, why, it's older than I am.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the radio, except maybe a slight cough. Here, I'll show you.
I bet it won't even light up. As for the rest of the furniture in here...
Shopping news, which called Judge Wilkins a political fathead and Stiver's stooge.
Oh, Dad, please.
Spurred on by that letter, a Seacroft percentage group has been formed. A dinner for their campaign.
Come on!
Fathead in capital letters.
Oh.
And now for the weather forecast. It looks as if...
Judge, believe me, I don't know a thing about this dinner.
Oh, it's all right, son. I'm sure you don't.
Oh, Bill.
Well, just don't stare at me.
Oh, come on. Let's go downstairs.
And it came just before you came home, Bill.
Telegram, huh? I'll be right down, honey.
Is it all right if I open it?
No.
Too late. Bill.
What is it? What's the matter?
Didn't you call off that dinner?
What dinner?
Those people who want you to run for the state senate. It's tonight.
Oh, no.
Look, it says unable to reach you on phone. Tommy Murphy will call for you tonight at 7:30. Bill, didn't you tell them you weren't running?
Me? I thought you were going to phone them.
Oh. Oh, hello, Albert.
The door was open, Ruth, so I just walked in. Well, Seacroft, fine thing, selling out your wife's father for a plate of soup and lukewarm chicken.
I am not going to that dinner.
Oh, I see. Tommy Murphy is calling for you so as not to take you to the dinner.
You'd better phone him, Bill. All those people are expecting you.
Wait a minute. The chairman of the Wilkins campaign has the germ of an idea. Yes, sir, the germ of an idea.
Keep away from him, Ruth. He's got germs.
Seacroft, these misguided people are gathering tonight to oppose your father-in-law. Now, who better than you can change their mind?
You want Bill to go?
Oh, no. Ruth and I are going out for dinner, and we have tickets to a very fine musical. And besides, I don't go places where my wife isn't invited.
It's just a political dinner, dear, and maybe you could help Dad.
Well, I'd sure like to help him.
If you're worried about those theater tickets, I'll take Ruth.
Well, honey, you do want to see the show.
And why waste the tickets?
Well, you're sure you don't mind?
Why should I mind? Say, I better put on a dark suit.
I think I better go on up, too, for a minute. Excuse us, won't you, Albert? Darling, I don't think I want to go.
Oh, go on, baby. Have a good time.
Well, if I were sure you meant that... Oh, honey, you know how I feel about Albert.
No, I don't. I was never engaged to him. Oh, look, Mrs. Dope, I'm kidding. 10 to 1, I'll have more fun with Mr. Murphy.
Well, I'll go out and get some beer and cigars. Isn't that what politicians like?
I'll worry about my fella. You look after yours. I'll be down in about 5 minutes. Yes?
Good evening. I'm Tommy Murphy.
You're Tommy Murphy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, hello. I'm Bill Seacroft. Oh, Ruth, Mr. Murphy's here. We thought you'd be a man.
So did my father. That's how I got the name. Well, you're good looking. That's a great political asset. Young, too.
He's 30. I'm Mrs. Seacroft.
She's 24.
How do you do, Mrs. Seacroft?
I'm Albert Cummer, 3rd Avenue State Bank.
How do you do? I hope you don't mind my dragging your husband away.
Of course I don't mind.
I'm taking her to the theater. Ready, Ruth?
I'll just have to get my wrap.
Oh, let me help you, dear. It looks like politics might be very interesting.
You behave yourself.
Have a good time, baby. Oh, Albert, I can trust you, can't I? I'm sure that Ruth will want to get home early.
Early?
Hello? Hello, Clara. This is Miriam. Clara, Bill's gone to that dinner, and what do you think? His campaign manager is a woman. Yes. Young, sophisticated, and very vital with red hair. Ruth? Well, of course she's not jealous. Why should she be? Clara. Jealous is the most infantile of all the emotions, and is indulged in only by people who are fundamentally maladjusted, insecure, and... Clara? Who did I just hear talking to you? But I did, Clara, and it sounded like Ziggy. Well, what's he doing at your house? Oh, of course I don't care. Ziggy's got a mind of his own, hasn't he? Such as it is. Oh, never mind. I'll see you tomorrow, Clara.
Oh. And thank you again, Albert, for a very nice evening. But now why don't you just run along?
Why? Because Bill isn't home yet.
Well, the dinner probably lasted very late.
Of course. Probably has nothing to do whatever with that attractive Miss Murphy.
Of course it hasn't. I'm just worried. There's so many accidents.
I know, and I admire you, Ruth, for not being suspicious.
Albert, believe me, there's nothing to be suspicious about.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Why don't we phone Miss Murphy's home?
Oh, Albert, I wish you'd go home.
But I'm just trying to cheer you up, and believe me, it's not easy to defend a man who at this very moment is probably...
Bill?
Oh, I'm sorry I'm so late, darling. Hello, Albert. Well, Ruth, an awful lot happened tonight.
So we gathered.
Ruth, I'm running for the state senate.
You what?
Running? Against Dad?
Oh, it's the last thing in the world I intended to do, but...
The man down here? What's going on?
Judge Wilkins, the son-in-law of yours, is running against you in the primaries.
Bill?
Yes, sir, I have to.
The most shocking act of disloyalty I ever... Your son-in-law living in your own house.
Albert, I know where he lives.
Well, aren't you going to do anything?
What should I do? Hit him with a hairbrush?
Oh, Albert, why don't you go home and get some sleep?
Well, maybe I take treachery too seriously. Good night.
Now tell me, what is all this about?
Well, Judge, I went to this dinner only to talk for you, and I did from my heart. But they brought up this airport issue, and it was the first time I'd ever heard the other side.
And you don't agree with me?
No, sir, I don't. As a matter of fact, I feel so strongly about it that I've got to oppose you.
Oh, Miss Murphy must have been very persuasive.
Miss Murphy? Oh, yes, she was. So were the others.
I see.
Oh, now, Ruth, darling, this isn't like you.
Well, I didn't think it was like you to turn against my father.
But this is a matter of principles, of convictions. Oh, I know I won't win, but
Ruth, where's your sense of humor? Don't you think I'd holler my head off if I thought he had a chance? Go to it, my boy.
Thanks, Judge.
There, Ruth, you see?
Well, honey, what do you got to say now?
Good night. I'm very tired.
Well, worthy opponent, how about a little nightcap?
I think I could use one.
Now, Ruth will get over it.
Yeah, I suppose she will. Well, to Senator Wilkins.
Thank you, my son. Oh. Miriam, go to bed.
In just a few moments, we'll bring you Act Two of Dear Wife.
KNX 1070, News Radio.
Now, Mr. William Keeley, our producer.
Act Two of Dear Wife, starring William Holden as Bill, Joan Caulfield as Ruth, Edward Arnold as Judge Wilkins, and Mona Freeman as Miriam. Well, it appears that the Wilkins family is offering the public two candidates in the contest for the state senate, the judge and his son-in-law, Bill. And so far, the rivalry has been exceedingly friendly. It's late afternoon, and Judge and Mrs. Wilkins are expecting guests, some 50 campaign workers, for a barbecue dinner in the garden.
Father.
Well, Miriam?
Would you mind terribly if I'm not present at this dinner?
No, I'd be delighted. Why?
Miriam, more napkins, dear.
In a moment, Mother. Are Ruth and Bill coming to the dinner?
Well, Ruth and Bill are with some of their friends. We'll see them later at the rally.
In case you don't know it, Father, Ruth may not vote for you.
Then again, she may. Ruth hasn't made up her mind yet.
Well, I have a problem, too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it this way, Father. Let's say that you were crazy about your father.
Well, I was.
And he was running for public office. And his political views were... Well, I don't mean stupid exactly.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, what I mean is that this is a party for your supporters. And if I'm here as your daughter, that's one thing. But politically, well, what should I do?
Get the napkins for your mother.
Yes, Father.
Edith, do you suppose that if I pulled some strings, we could get that child deported?
Oh, Harry. Harry, that's terrible. Now help me with these chairs.
Hey, Miriam! It's me, Miriam!
Oh, hello, Ziggy. I'm busy.
Oh, but I thought I'd tell you the news. I get to play in the baseball game tonight.
Oh, Oh, congratulations.
Well, what time will you be ready?
For what?
For what? To watch me play.
Oh, well, I've got to watch my father play statesman. We're having that dinner.
Dinner?
Well, don't you remember? You mailed the invitations for me.
I mailed it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Miriam, I'm waiting for those napkins.
You can see how busy I am, Ziggy.
Yeah. Miriam, I think I have something to tell you about those invitations.
But I can't understand it, Edith. You ask 50 people for 6 o'clock, you certainly expect them by 6:30.
Well, I'm here, Judge. And these spare ribs, delicious, Mrs. Wilkins. Simply delicious.
Well, it's only 5 minutes to 7, Harry.
Yes, but the rally starts at 8.
Oh, well, it's Saturday, and people go into town, and they get caught in traffic jams.
All 50 of them?
Well, you needn't be annoyed with me, Harry.
It's very peculiar.
50 pounds of spare ribs. Oh, dear.
Father, I think Ziggy has something to say to you.
Oh, not now, Miriam, not now.
I think it's very urgent, Father.
Well, what is it, Ziggy?
Is there anything else?
Father, it's really my fault.
Your fault? I take that for granted. Now tell me, what is your fault now? Would you like to clarify that for him?
Well, all spring Ziggy's been on the bench, Father.
Well, I've been on the bench for 20 years.
Well, Monday the coach told him to warm up.
Oh, now, really, Miriam.
Well, he got so excited he mislaid his bicycle.
Well, I'm very sorry, but I didn't take it.
The bicycle had a carrier, a sort of a basket.
That's very interesting. Is that the whole story?
No, Father. But the invitations for tonight were in the basket.
I forgot to mail them. Goodbye, Miriam.
Oh, no, I don't believe it.
Miriam.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Mother.
Oh, we'll speak to you later. Come along, Harry. We might as well get over to the rally.
Not to mail the invitation. I just don't believe it.
Oh, you're in, Judge. Great speech.
Nice work, Judge.
That's stelling, young Seacroft. Thank you. And don't forget my place after the rally, huh? Those spare ribs, they're still waiting for us.
Don't worry, Judge. I've invited everybody.
Oh, fine, Albert, fine.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll hear Candid Seacroft's rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, I like airports just as well as the next fellow. Maybe a little better. And I'd be in favor of any reasonable sacrifice to bring one to Van Buren Heights. But let's take another look at that sacrifice. Demanding that 140 people give up their homes just so that we can have an airport? No. And if elected, I'm not going to. Thank you.
And now we'll have questions from the audience. One at a time, and please keep them brief.
This question is to Mr. Seacroft. Mr. Seacroft, how old are you?
I'm 30.
30, and no experience.
4 years overseas, ain't that experience?
The chair recognizes the gentleman on the aisle.
Judge Wilkins, was your house ever torn down for the good of Van Buren Heights?
No, sir, it was not.
That's all I wanted to know.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Mr. Seacroft's campaign manager, Miss Murphy.
Thank you. Judge Wilkins, you said in your speech that you wanted no punches pulled.
Yes, that's right, Miss Murphy.
Well, is there any truth to that letter in the shopping news that you are Stiver's stooge?
That letter was absolute nonsense.
But wasn't it written by your daughter?
Well,
Wasn't it, Judge?
Yes, it was.
We want Seacroft! We want Seacroft! We want Seacroft! We want Seacroft!
The
KMX Drama Hour continues with the second part of tonight's presentation. Every night at this time, it's an hour of outstanding entertainment for radio's golden past. Stories of adventure, mystery, and comedy. Yours for the listening on KMX 1070, an infinity station.
Well, was it my fault, Ruth? Anything can happen at a rally.
What's the good of talking about it?
Very clever girl, Miss Murphy.
What do you mean by that?
Albert said she's clever. Is that so hard to understand?
Yes, it took brains to find out that Miriam wrote that letter.
Are you suggesting I told her? Is that what you think, Ruth?
Does it matter what I think? I think you shouldn't be running against Dad, but you are.
Oh, I've heard all that.
Well, here's something you haven't heard. I'm voting for my father.
And we'd appreciate it if you'd be a little more pleasant by the time we get home.
Why?
Because all those people Mother and Dad expected before the rally will be there.
Oh, fine.
What did you say, Clara? Well, yes, Clara, of course. But as long as Mother and Ruth remain infants politically, the responsibilities are on my shoulders. They're not back from the rally yet. My father made me stay home. Oh, incidentally, I just saved him $40. So I think he'll feel a lot better when he... Oh, they've just come home, Clara. Talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye. Mother, you're going to be very pleased with me.
Why, dear?
Well, rather than see them spoil, I phoned Mr. Hotzencleaver at the delicatessen, and he came over and bought up all the spare ribs.
Oh, no!
Mother, who are all those people?
Just the campaign workers, dear. We invited them all over for spare ribs.
Oh!
Harry, hurry that match to your cigar. The wastebasket's burning.
Oh, let it burn.
Now put the newspaper down, dear. It just makes you feel miserable reading about that rally last night.
I can understand how the judge feels.
Oh, that's a big help, I'm sure.
There's no need for sarcasm, dear.
Well, at least she spoke to me, Mother Wilkins. I think it's nice when a wife talks to her husband.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Miriam.
You know, this dining room could be used for a deep freeze.
No, keep quiet, Miriam.
Yes, Father.
I've been thinking that it might simplify everything if Ruth and I found another place to live.
Perhaps that would be best.
Please, I am in no mood for nonsense.
Father, could I make a suggestion?
No.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Harry.
All right, what is it?
Well, a spirit of ill will has come into this home. And while my suggestion may seem a bit drastic...
Oh, never mind the preamble.
Well, Father, why don't you just withdraw from the race?
Miriam.
Well, it was merely an idea.
What kind of a family have I got, anyway? My son-in-law humiliates me in public.
That's hardly fair, sir.
You keep out of this. And my youngest daughter, my diabolical, my Machiavellian...
Hot waffles, Miss Wilkins?
A man raises a family. Sure, he's entitled to some respect. But what do I get?
Hot waffles, Jack!
I don't want any hot waffles.
Well, it certainly isn't compulsory, Harry. Ruth?
I'm not hungry, Mother. Excuse me, I'm going upstairs.
Bill?
No, thanks. Ruth, wait a minute.
Will you have a hot waffle, Miriam? Yes, please. I'd love a hot waffle. Oh.
That's exactly right. I'm packing our suitcases. We're moving.
Moving? But why?
Oh, honey, it's obvious. Now help me, will you?
Don't you think I ought to have something to say about it?
Well, what's there to say? You know what the mess things are in.
Well, whose fault is it?
Nobody's. Mine, if you like. What difference does it make?
You don't consult me about anything, do you?
Now, Ruth.
For political advice, you go to Tommy Murphy. You might at least consult me about where we live.
Please, we've been all through that.
Bill, you're acting like a child. You don't even know where we're going.
We'll find a room.
No.
Darling, we've got to. Look what's happening to us. All this bickering. If we go on living with your family, it's just...
It has nothing to do with my family. We're not leaving.
Ruth, I hate this wrangling. Now get your things.
I meant what I said. I'm not going. And if you want to go without me, go right ahead. It's fine with me. Go now. The sooner the better.
All right, I will.
Hello, Bill.
Oh, hello, Miriam.
Bill, I know this is a bank and that you're awfully busy, but have you got half a minute?
Yeah, sure. Well, how are you, Miriam?
Oh, depressed, naturally. Bill, I'm not going to interfere and ask you to phone Ruth or something, but I thought you might benefit from my own experience.
Yeah?
Ziggy and I had a terribly bitter quarrel. I lost my temper, and I told him I wouldn't go to the PTA dance.
I'm sorry, Miriam.
Oh, you needn't be. That's my point. I'm going to pocket my pride and call him. I'm going to tell him how wrong I was, even though I wasn't really. You see, Bill, when people are grown up,
Hi.
Oh, Ziggy, how did you know I was here?
I didn't. A bank is a public institution. Mr. Seacroft, I'm in a bad jam, sir.
Oh?
Could I borrow your tuxedo?
Well, you got any collateral, Ziggy?
Well, I got studs in a boiled shirt. It's for the PTA dance.
Well, I haven't told you I was going, Ziggy.
I'm taking Clara.
Clara? Oh.
Could I borrow it, sir?
Yeah, I'll have it here tomorrow.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mr. Seacroft. So long, Mr. Seacroft.
Well, he must think I care.
Do you?
Yes. In the battle of the sexes, nobody ever wins. Goodbye, Bill.
Yes, sir?
Alice, would you mind getting Judge Wilkins' house on the phone?
Yes, sir?
No, I'll be darned if I will.
Well, whatever you say, Mr. Seacroft.
That you, Ruth?
Yes, Mother. Anybody telephone?
No, dear.
Why should Bill call you? Have you called him?
Oh, Dad, please. Well, I saw Mr. Burroughs, and he gave me a job. $40 a week.
Ruth, I don't approve.
I know, Dad. I'm behaving like an idiot. I'm a stubborn mule and a spoiled child. Anyway, Mr. Burroughs said I could take over the apartment rentals here, but he'd rather I worked for him in Chicago.
Chicago? Ruth, I absolutely forbid it.
Dad, I'm 24.
And I wish you were 10 so I could paddle some sense into you.
Harry.
Ruth, come here. I want to tell you something. Before you were born, your mother and I had quite a row. What it was about, I don't even remember. Do you, Edith?
No.
There, you see? It happened over nothing at all. But we were young and proud and stubborn. So I packed my things and moved over to the YMCA. But your mother, bless her, she phoned me. You remember, Edith? Why, just think of it. If she hadn't phoned me, all that's good in our lives would have been thrown away. Our home, our children, our love for each other.
Oh, excuse me, Dad. I think that's Mr. Burroughs.
Harry.
Hmm?
When did you move into the YMCA? Why, you made up that whole fantastic story.
I did not. I read it here 5 minutes ago in the magazine.
Yes, right away, Mr. Burroughs. Thank you.
It was Mr. Burroughs.
There's an apartment Mr. Burroughs wants me to show, that new building at 3rd and Oak.
Now, just a minute. Ruth.
Sorry, Dad. He said right away. See you later.
Apartment, huh? Edith, isn't Bill still looking for a place?
But yes, he is.
I see. Well, I think I'll make a phone call. What's the number of that bank, anyway?
So you'd better hurry, Bill, if you're going to make that speech during your lunch hour.
Would you give me 10 minutes off, Tommy?
Why?
Well, I'd like to run over to 3rd and Oak. There's an apartment I want to look at.
Oh? How did you hear about an apartment?
Well, I don't know. Someone just called and left a message. Is this the apartment? Ruth.
Bill, it was nice of you to come over.
Well, I heard about the apartment and...
Oh, the apartment. Well, it's a very nice apartment. I was just here showing it to someone.
Uh-huh. How long have you had a job?
I just started today. About this apartment. There's only one drawback. The rent's $95 a month.
Oh. Oh, well, that's okay.
It is, but...
I'm quitting the bank. I'm going to work for the Shopping News, business manager.
Oh, that's fine.
$100 a week to start with.
Oh, that is fine.
You know, it's funny, a guy renting an apartment from his wife.
I guess we did the sensible thing, don't you? The way things worked out?
Yeah. When two people realize that they... Yeah, very sensible.
Oh, Bill, it wasn't sensible at all. It was stupid. Just plain downright stupid. And if you think you could forgive me...
darling? I think we just have time to...
Oh.
Oh, Ruth, you met Miss Murphy, Tommy Murphy?
Yes.
She's taking me to lunch. I mean, we're going to lunch.
Well, you'd better hurry.
Well, Ruth,
I'll mail you the lease.
Oh, now look, Mrs. Seacroft. If you'll just listen to me, I can explain.
Bill listens to you. Isn't that enough?
But, Ruth, it's just...
Please, I wish you'd both go.
Yeah, sure.
May I come in?
Oh, Mr. Burroughs.
I'm glad you're still here, Mrs. Seacroft. I brought you those leases.
Mr. Burroughs.
Yes?
I've changed my mind about this job. I want to go to Chicago.
All you need to know, KNX 1070 News Radio.
The curtain rises on Act 3 of Dear Wife, starring William Holden as Bill, Joan Caulfield as Ruth, Edward Arnold as Judge Wilkins, and Mona Freeman as Miriam. Bill Seacroft's found a new job and a new apartment, but it certainly appears that he's lost a wife. While Ruth prepares to leave for Chicago, the political campaign is drawing to a close. Naturally, Tommy Murphy is seeing more and more of her favorite candidate.
Oh, hello, Tom. Come in.
Well, nice, tidy place you have here, Bill.
Oh, just push your way through. I'm crazy about housekeeping.
I hear your wife's going to Chicago.
Yeah, I heard.
Why don't you see her?
No, it's gone too far, Tommy. It's not going to please the voters, is it?
It's not just the campaign I'm thinking about. Phone her, Bill.
Uh-uh.
What's her number?
I said no, Tommy.
Well, I've tried to be a Girl Scout. Now I'll be a heel. Bill, how do you feel about me?
Well, I like you fine. You know that, Tommy.
That doesn't answer my question. Bill, I can't pretend I'm sorry about the way things turned out. You see, I like Ruth, but I like me better. And you quite a lot. Well, there, now it's your turn to make a speech.
I haven't anything prepared. Hello?
Bill, this is Miriam.
Oh, hello, Miriam.
Well, I'll be running along.
Oh, hold on a second, Miriam.
And, you might think about that speech, Bill. I'll call you later.
Sorry, Miriam.
Well, that's all right. Bill, would you kindly take me to the dance, the PTA dance Tuesday night?
A dance? Oh, now, look, honey.
Oh, Bill, you've just got to.
Look, Miriam, there must be dozens of fellows your age who'd like to take you.
Oh, but Bill, I can't let Clara take him away from me.
That Ziggy character? Oh, now, look, Miriam, I'm really very flattered that you want to take me, but now how...
You will? Oh, Bill, you're an angel. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, it worked.
What, dear?
Bill's taking me to the PTA dance.
Bill?
Well, don't you see? Parents will be there and alumni. Well, it's so simple. We get Ruth to go to the dance. She sees Bill and knows Chicago.
Well, that's a good try, honey, but Ruth won't be here. She's changed her plans. She's leaving in the morning.
Oh.
Oh, Ruth. Albert phoned, dear. He said he'll be right over.
Thanks, Mother. He's taking me to the railroad station.
Is she still going?
What do you mean, is she still going?
That foolish girl.
Well, Bill's just as obstinate. Oh, if there were just something we could do.
What if I wrote her a letter and signed Bill's name to her?
Miriam, please. No letters.
Oh. Well, then I suppose I could...
No.
Well, is our little chick ready to leave the roost?
Hello, Albert.
Albert, I am not in a very good humor.
Now, Judge, it's all for the best. Chin up.
Albert, do you have to be a yuck?
Miriam. We're all very upset, Albert.
But why? Ruth once made a foolish move, now she's making a wise one. And I say more power to her.
And I say shut up. Oh, I'm sorry, Albert.
Well, she'd better hurry. I've got to drive slow. My brakes aren't fixed.
Bad brakes, huh?
Hello, Albert.
Oh, I'll take your luggage out to the car, Ruth.
Come along, Miriam. We can help.
Aren't you coming to the station, Dad?
I can't, honey. There's a session in traffic court. Well, have a nice trip and drop us a line occasionally.
Oh, I'm glad you're not upset about my leaving.
Upset? Why should I be? You want to go, don't you?
Well, you don't have to be so happy about it.
Oh, well, I'm just making the best of things.
Coming, Ruth?
Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, dear. 40 brakes, huh?
Operator.
Operator, give me the police department. Oh, this is Judge Wilkins.
Police headquarters.
Yes, I know. This is Judge Wilkins. Now, let me speak to Lieutenant Walker in the traffic department.
Where is he? Where is Judge Wilkins? I insist upon seeing Judge Wilkins.
That's the general idea, Bud. This happens to be traffic court.
What is this? What is all this?
Well, Judge, it seems this guy here is...
Edith, Ruth.
I'm here too, Father.
Yes, I see you are.
Judge Wilkins, you won't believe what I had to go through. You simply won't believe.
Father, these two officers...
Albert was driving, Harry, and he just...
Order, please. This is a courtroom.
They made me miss my train.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that, Ruth.
Ruth was a witness. She can testify.
The witnesses will please sit down until they're called. Now, what's the charge?
I charged them with false arrest, attempted assault and battery, and tearing my new blue suit. Look, just look!
Sergeant, tell me what happened.
Well, Judge, I was
What
close to...
happened? These gorillas stopped me and asked me about my brakes. I told them who I was, and they were extremely rude.
He made a very uncalled for remark, Your Honor.
And then these two pigs...
That was a remark!
Just because I had the hiccups, they said I was drunk. Drunk, mind you. Oh, I shouldn't get excited.
Well, he acted drunk, Your Honor.
Oh, then they took me to the police station. They made me walk a straight line.
Now, Albert.
And then I had to blow up a balloon.
Sobriety test, Your Honor.
Can't a man hiccup without having to blow up a balloon? Is it against the law to hiccup? Oh, I shouldn't get so excited.
Tell me, who tore his coat?
He did it himself. I'm holding him by the sleeve, see? And he runs away, and I'm still holding the sleeve. Oh, here.
Well, thank you very much.
Albert, you are charged with driving with faulty brakes and resisting an officer. I take it you plead not guilty.
I am not guilty, and I'm an hour late at the bank as it is.
Well, just take a seat for a moment, Albert, and cool off.
A man my age blowing up a balloon.
Jim, you belong to the PTA, don't you?
Why, yeah, sure, Your Honor.
When is that dance?
Next Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Trial is set for Wednesday, 10 a.m. No bail will be necessary.
Oh, that's very decent of you, Judge.
And all witnesses are ordered to appear at the same time.
You don't mean me, Dad. I won't be here.
I said all witnesses will appear.
But I'm taking the next train to Chicago.
The court is very sorry to inconvenience the witness, but our presence here on Wednesday is essential and is so ordered.
But now look here, Dad.
Young lady, in a courtroom, a witness does not address the judge as dad.
Your Honor is behaving like a stinker.
And you'll stay in town for the trial, Mrs. Seacroft, or be arrested for contempt of court. Next case, please. Now, Ruth, you came to this dance to please your sister.
Well?
The least you can do is to be pleasant.
We can do without the judicial tone, Harry. We are not in court.
We will be in the morning.
I don't find that very amusing. Well, we might as well sit down.
You know something, Bill? You're a very accomplished dancer.
Thank you, Miriam.
But I wish you wouldn't look so tragic. I want Ziggy to think we're having fun.
Well, how's this?
Now you look like an advertisement for toothpaste.
Well, there's your Casanova in my pants.
Oh, he's dancing with Clara.
Miriam, are you expecting someone? You keep looking around.
Now, what would I be expecting? Bill, what would you do if, by the sheerest accident, you happened to run into Ruth?
Here at the dance? Well, she's not coming, is she?
Oh, no. Oh, so you're disappointed.
Look, let's just dance, huh?
Well, of
And you knew he'd be here, didn't you, Father?
He's your husband, Ruth.
Well, I'm leaving.
Ruth, come here. Oh, wait a moment, Ruth.
Father, please, there's no need to make a scene. I'm just going home, that's all.
Going home. Well, I must have been a very bad father.
This has nothing to do with
Oh,
it.
yes, it has. If I'd brought you up properly, you wouldn't be running away. You'd stay and face things.
Please, I want to phone for a taxi.
All right, Ruth, all right. The fact that you're a disappointment as a daughter is not important. If you want to be a failure as a wife, and not much of a woman, go ahead. Run out. On the other hand, if you'd care to dance...
Oh, Dad, I'd love to dance.
That's my girl.
Gee, Miriam, it was sure nice of Bill to let me dance with you.
Perhaps Bill just wanted to dance with Clara.
Well, I'm glad you got here anyway.
Oh, Ziggy, there's just no logic in my feeling about you. You're certainly not good looking. You're politically unconscious and...
Oh, gee. You talk beautifully. Miriam, you want to wear my fraternity pin?
Well, it's awfully nice of you to ask me, Ziggy, but giving a girl a fraternity pin, it's a barbaric symbol of possession. Like branding a cow.
Listen, I certainly don't think of you that way.
But, Ziggy, if I were to wear your pin, it would mean that... I'll wear it.
You will?
Huh?
Oh, gosh! I can hardly talk!
Well, Mr. Seacroft.
Oh, I'm sorry, Clara. See you later.
I do not wish to dance with Clara.
Well, my feet hurt, Albert. Ask someone else.
You won't be quite so flippant when you've heard what I've got to say.
Well, say it.
This way, if you don't mind.
Well?
I have some extremely bad news for you, Seacroft. You are no longer a candidate for state senator.
Oh, I'm not.
No, you're not. You've moved, haven't you, to Oak Street. That's in the 10th district. You were a candidate from the 3rd.
Oh?
So you're disqualified. And some more news. I'm planning to spend my vacation next month in Chicago. Incidentally, Ruth will be in Chicago.
Albert, go away, will you?
You came between us once and it didn't work out. I trust you'll be sensible enough not to do it again.
I said go away.
Furthermore, Seacroft...
Ladies and gentlemen, I just received some news that you'll all be glad to hear. Van Buren Heights can now have its new airport, and nobody will be left homeless. George H. Stiver is donating his Lakeview property for the airport.
Mr. Metcalf, may I say a few words?
Well, Mrs. Bixby?
As most of you know, I have been very active in the campaign to elect our good friend Judge Wilkins to the state senate. In view of what you have just heard, there is no longer anything to be said in favor of that self-seeking young man who accepted the judge's bounty and the judge's daughter, only to desert both when he saw a chance for his own advancement.
Mrs. Bixby, please.
Not a word of that is true. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mrs. Seacroft. My husband has never been supported by anyone but himself. If we've separated, it's no one's fault but mine, and no one's business but ours. I personally am going to vote for my husband.
Ruth.
Oh, Bill.
Albert, wait a minute. Wait, have you seen Bill? I said, have you seen... Albert, that black eye!
He's seen him, Father.
Well?
Good morning, sir. I'm here on behalf of the Civic Betterment League. And would you care to sign a petition?
7 o'clock in the morning, are you nuts?
Yeah, what is it?
Would you like to sign a petition to send William Seacroft to the state senate from the 10th district?
Of course I would.
Oh, just a second, Miriam. Good morning, darling.
Good morning, darling.
Kissing. At 7 o'clock in the morning.
You're hearing Radio Classics on the KNX Drama Hour.
Now, here's Mr. Keeley with our stars.
The curtain has fallen on Dear Wife, but here she is with all her relatives to take an extra bow. William Holden, Joan Caulfield, Edward Arnold, and Mona Freeman. Joan, I've heard rumors that we haven't seen the last of the Wilkins family.
That's right, Bill. Paramount has just finished the sequel to the sequel, with the perfect title, Dear Brat.
Who was an old maid of 18, played by Miss Mona Freeman.
The only nice thing anyone ever says about me is that I'm a Lux girl.
That's because you take after your older sister, Mona. Lux toilet soap is my favorite complexion care.
Eddie, you're also in Dear Brat, I hear.
Yes, Bill and Joan seem to have gone elsewhere, but Mona and I carry on.
Well, it's pretty obvious where Bill went. Right down Sunset Boulevard to win an Academy Award nomination for the best performance of the year.
And we certainly want to add our congratulations and best wishes, Bill.
Thank you.
And our congratulations to Eddie Arnold. You know, he's opening later this evening at the Biltmore Theater in Apple of His Eye. And by now, he has a bad case of butterflies.
Oh, Bill, I can hardly believe that a veteran actor like Eddie has opening night jitters.
Why, of course not. The idea is the Ricklets accompanied for health.
Joan, you must have some interesting new plans, a new picture, maybe?
The lady says no.
Now, what kind of an answer is that? I thought you were making a picture with your husband, Frank Ross.
That's right, Bill. Frank is directing and co-producing The Lady Says No with John Stillman Jr.
Well, this lady says, what are you planning for next week, Bill?
Well, Mona, next week we'll present one of our favorite stars, James Stewart. You know, Jimmy was to have appeared a few weeks ago, but he'll be with us for sure next Monday night in a rollicking comedy, When Willie Comes Marching Home. And co-starring with him in this recent 20th Century Fox screen success, we'll present William Demarest in his original role and delightful Joanne Drew.
Well, that's one we won't miss, Bill. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. You're a wonderful family.
We hope you've enjoyed the KNX Drama Hour. Listen Monday night for Gunsmoke. Follow
From the beautiful college and porterhouse in Chicago's famous Hotel Sherman, it's time now for your family to join the millions of families from coast to coast and listen to America's favorite Don McNeill and his Breakfast Club. And now here's your Toastmaster, Don McNeill.
Good morning, Breakfast Clubbers. Morning to ya. Woke up bright and early. Just a howdy do ya. First call to breakfast for all of you out there.
America, wake the Breakfast Club is on the air.
Well, how do you do? Good to see you folks at home this day, this Thursday. And delightful that we have so many lovely folks here from all over the country visiting us in the Sherman this morning. Insurance salesmen, the Metropolitan Honor Club, psychiatrists. Good to see you, boys. Psychiatrists came here looking for business. They're going to find it. And here's a wonderful idea for you by a little gal who's only been out of high school herself a couple of years. That's Ann Leonardo, who's singing for us this... sorry. You got the first one scheduled, haven't you, Gary?
This morning.
Huh?
This morning, yeah.
Come on, boy. Wake up there, boy. See, that's the way I drive them nuts here. Now, I see, Ann, you're scheduled for the second quarter hour, huh? Well, I could have switched them, but let's get Gary Mann up there. He's a fine guy, too. This guy's only been out of high school. How long, Gary?
4 years.
4 years. And, what...
I just assumed you wouldn't ask me.
No. I'm not going to ask you how long you were in high school, either. All right, Gary, let's have it, boy.
When skies are cloudy and gray, they're only gray for a day. So wrap your troubles in dreams and dream your troubles away until that sunshine peeps through. There's only one thing to do. Just wrap your troubles in dreams and dream your troubles away. Your castles may tumble, that's fate after all. Life's really funny that way. No use to grumble, just smile as they fall. Weren't you king for a day? Say now, just remember that sunshine always follows the rain. So wrap your troubles in dreams and dream your troubles away. Your castles may tumble, that's fate after all. Life's really funny that way. Now, no use to grumble, just smile as they fall. Weren't you king for a day? Say now, just remember that sunshine always follows the rain. So wrap your troubles in dreams and dream your troubles away.
Gary Mann, 6'4", 173 pounds, singing for you. Did I come close?
Close enough.
273 pounds, singing for you.
That's way overboard now.
Somewhere in between there, singing for you. Seated in front of me are 8 of the most splendid-looking characters I've seen in some time. These have all been chosen by their various high schools as representative students. And amazingly enough, there are 7 boys and 1 girl. I was looking at this fellow's sideburns and made a mistake there for a moment. There are 7 boys and 1 girl. And we have devised a little quiz we thought was befitting for the senior class. And since you're all going to graduate anyway, you won't mind taking one more quiz. This quiz is entirely different from any, I think, that you've taken in high school. But I think the results will be interesting because here we've got seniors from so many different schools. And this quiz is to find out how young people regard the future. And the title of it is, How Does the Future Look to You? First of all, sign your names up at the top so we know which is which. And there are places to mark yes or no to each of the questions, and I want you to be honest. All right, you seniors at home might take this along with them and see how you come out in relation to the way they do it. Question number 1. Do you figure that with taxes and all, you'll never be a wealthy man or woman? Number 2, do you expect to have difficulty finding the kind of wife or husband that'll suit you? Number 3, don't think too long about this, sir. Just, It's only an hour program. All right. Number 3, do you think this generation of teenagers is better than the last generation was? But I know the answer to that. Number 4, will you expect your children to do better in school than you did? That's a loaded question. Number 5, do you figure that success in life is based more on whom you know rather than what you know? Number 6, do you feel that any part of your high school studies was time wasted? Some sneaky glances being exchanged here. And finally, number 7, will you regard yourself as an old person when you are 40? And be careful how you answer that. All right. Now, we'll collect the cards and we'll see how they all did and if there are any differences in opinion. Or if most high schoolers that we have represented here, at least, seem to answer the same. I've got these various cards back again now. Here's the way they're supposed to be graded, according to the person who devised this quiz. In this one, yes answers to any of the questions would indicate a negative view of things. So we will count nothing for yeses and 10 points for nos. So the higher the score, the better your outlook on life and the future is supposed to be. If you scored between 50 and 70, you old optimist, you. If you're between 30 and 50, you better get off the fence or you'll miss the parade. And if you're below 30, are you sure you're ready for the future? Or any future? Let's start in with Frederick Schatz, I think it is. Is that this fellow at the end here? Oh, this fellow right here. Hello, Frederick. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good, sir. What are your plans for the future before I tell you how you did in this quiz?
Well, I'll be going to service when the school's out.
Oh, you going to service?
Yeah.
And then into what?
Oh, I'm going to be a mechanic.
A mechanic?
Diesel mechanic.
Well, that's a fine idea that you have there. You scored 30 in this quiz, which means you're right on the fence. Which isn't a bad place to be. You find a lot of diesels there, I see.
Yeah.
You figure you're going to be a wealthy man, though, don't you?
Oh, I should be able to.
Yeah, that's what you said on your quiz here. You don't expect to have any difficulty finding the kind of wife that'd suit you, huh?
No, I don't think.
You got one picked out now?
No, not all the way yet.
Not all the way?
No.
Well, look, I didn't ask if you were married, but I mean...
No.
You mean one's got you picked out, is that what you meant?
Oh. Well...
Not giving me very definite answers here, Frederick. I bet you, I haven't looked at these, but I'll bet you every single one said that this generation of teenagers was better than the last. I see you did. You expect your children to do better in school than you did, is that right?
Oh, they should.
Yes, I'll go along with you there. That's very interesting, Frederick. You might be interested to know that Robert Munkle of Spring Grove scored 50 in this quiz. That means this guy is really an optimist. Which is he?
Right next to him.
Oh, hi, Robert.
Hi.
How are you, boy? You're
Fine.
from Spring Grove, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Where's that, in Illinois?
No, it's up there in the southern part of Minnesota.
Ah, yeah. I'll say, you answered no to almost everything here. Except that you think your children ought to do better in school than you did, too, huh?
Well, they couldn't do any worse.
You said that you do not feel that any part of your high school studies were wasted. Is that right?
No, I believe that everything you do in high school should help you at one time or another.
I think you're absolutely right about that. The question about whether you figured success in life was based more on whom you know, is it who or whom you know? Which? Which is correct, whom you know or who you know?
Whom, I believe.
What?
Whom, I believe. I don't know.
Is that right? Who? You know whom. Of whom are you speaking? Of whom? You know. Well, high school students, which is it?
Make it anybody.
Eddie Valentine, which is correct? Who or whom? Whom?
Yeah.
Whom. I thought it was whom, yeah. Whom you know. You know whom. Sure. There's a title for a song. You know whom. You know whom. You know whom.
Never make a hit.
I don't think it'll work.
I got one called my old Kentucky whom.
Yes, sir. You figure that success is based more on whom you know or what you know?
What you know?
What you know.
Well, if you know quite a bit, you're bound to know a lot of people. So it goes sort of in a cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. I think you're absolutely right. If you know a lot of people will find you. That's for sure. Judy Miller of Peru, Nebraska, scored 30 on the quiz. Well, the most you can score, would be 70, and I'm not sure that that's correct. It would be all correct. That's just a high score, but whether that means anything or not is open to doubt, in my opinion. Judy, how big is your high school in Peru?
How?
Pardon?
How is the high school?
No, how big is it?
How big is it? Oh, 70 or 80. It's a small one.
A small one, huh? Uh-huh. And how many in the senior class?
19.
19.
There are 18 here on the trip.
Oh, gee, that's a good percentage. No, that's a very small school. And, of course, you get individual attention there, don't you?
Well, so they say.
Well, it's a cinch that out of 19 students, they know where everybody is. They can't miss on that. You say you won't regard yourself as an old person when you're 40, huh?
No, I don't think so.
I think most people of 40 are very young, don't you?
Well, life begins at 40.
Thank you. This is the kid speaking. You're so right. Judy, what are your ambitions?
Well, right now, I don't really know what I'm going to do when I get out of high school. I'm going to go on to college. We have a college right there in Peru.
Oh. Uh-huh. Well, that's fine. Then after that, ain't your tickets course.
I guess so.
Life begins at 40. Yeah. All right. Neil Carter, Middleton, Illinois. Middletown. Hello, Neil.
Hello.
Were you an athlete in school?
I've been playing baseball for 4 years, but I only played basketball 1 year.
Did you? Are you the president of the class, Neil?
Yes, I am.
Good. You're probably the biggest man in that school, aren't you?
Almost, in weight.
Yes, sir. Naturally, you have to eat in order to keep your body in condition, do you not?
Yes, because I farm and I got to keep up my eating.
What a spot for a commercial here. Well, Neil, you scored 30 in this quiz. That's not bad, you know it?
Oh, I don't know.
What's your outlook? What would you want to be as far as you're concerned?
I want to be a farmer. I'm going to go to college for a couple of years, but I want to be a farmer.
Good for you. You really want to learn all the scientific aspects of modern farming, huh?
Yes, I think you can learn a lot more by going to college.
I agree with you 100%. Yes, sir. You don't figure then you'll ever be a wealthy man, huh?
Well, I don't know. The way the farm program is now, some farmers can't be wealthy men.
Friends, this was a paid political announcement. This is not to be construed as the opinion of the sponsors, the network, or of Neil Carter, I believe. You're certainly entitled to your own opinion there, Neil, not so lucky. Whether you're wealthy or not, you'll find a lot of satisfaction in farming, that I know. Well, now we get back to these boys again in just a moment or two. But right now, let's get to a song by a former high schooler of 3 years ago, Ann Leonardo, that I introduced earlier. So now you know her. She's an old friend. And you're 19. I don't think you remember when this song was written, this song that you got scheduled this morning.
No, I don't.
Oh.
She wasn't born.
Eddie?
She wasn't born.
I don't think she was either. This was in the 20s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you stick around long enough, all these songs are coming back. Now listen to this one.
When my sugar walks down the street, all the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. And in the evening when the sun goes down, it's never dark when he's around. Oh, he's so affectionate, and I'll say this, that when he kisses me, I sure stay kissed. When my sugar walks down the street, the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. I know a thing or two, and I'm telling you, I've got a wonderful guy. He's got the cutest style, $1 million style. He's such a wonderful guy. I just feel so happy, 'cause I love him so. When he is by my side, I'm so filled with pride, I want the whole world to know. When my sugar walks down the street, all the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. And in the evening when the sun goes down. It's never dark when he's around. Oh, he's so affectionate, and I'll say this, that when he kisses me, I sure say kiss. But when my sugar walks down the street, the little birdies, they know it. The birdies, they show it. The birdies go tweet, 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 tweet.
Nice tweeting there, Ann.
Thank you, Don.
Our moment of silent prayer. Each in his own words, each in his own way. For a world united in peace, let us bow our heads and pray. Amen. In line with our teenage discussions here, we've been having the last few mornings around the breakfast table. Memory time this morning, I found in Reader's Digest, the main issue, an article by Dr. Charles Cole, who's president of Amherst College. And he says that today's young people are preparing for marriage by going steady. He said young moderns frown upon and shun dating practices of their parents' generation as cutting in on somebody else's date. He said there's a new and strange chasm between parents and young adults, which has resulted since going steady became the pattern for the social life of the young. 3 dates, in fairly rapid order, are not enough to establish the going steady relationship, but 6 are plenty. So the 4th or 5th date can be crucial. If the decision is affirmative, the boy will not go out with any other girl or the girl with any other boy. Each can count on the other for any date, dance, or social event. If the boy goes far away to school, he's admired by his fellows if he lives a monastic life at college. His sacrifice brings him respect and sympathy. Oddly, the author observes, the revolution is a triumph of rural 19th century customs that cause boys and girls to kind of pair off in more or less stable fashion. Nobody is quite sure why today's young people have reverted to earlier ways, but one result is clear. The average age for marriage has dropped rapidly. Couples going steady often play with the idea of marriage as early as a 2nd or 3rd date. That's what he says. It's interesting. Let me ask Curtis Hansen of Freeborn, Minnesota, one of the fellows that took that quiz. Did you listen to what this gentleman just said here about early marriages and going steady in high school?
Yeah, I guess so.
Is that about right?
I guess I'm not too much of an authority, but I guess so.
Oh, you mean you never went steady in high school?
Nope.
Uh-huh. Well, after all, when a fellow's busy raising sideburns, he can do just so much. You know, you can't get to everything. Did you raise those after a certain individual began singing and wearing those?
No, I believe I had them before that.
Oh, well, he copied you then. I was wondering. Curtis Hansen, what is your intention after you get out of school?
Well, I'll go on to college. I don't know for sure what I'll take up yet.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do the same thing your dad did?
I doubt it.
What does he do?
He's a farmer.
Oh, you don't like farming?
Oh, it's all right if you want to be a farmer.
Yeah. I think, I'm glad you put it that way. Glad I didn't. Curtis, you scored 40 on this quiz, which is just about the average of all of the students here. You only answered no to 4 questions, and you answered yes to about... Oh, you do expect to have difficulty finding the wife that'll suit you, is that right?
I don't know, I guess so.
You put yes to that. You also said that you feel that some of your high school studies were time wasted. What part was time wasted?
Well, I don't know, about my whole first year, I guess.
The whole first year? You mean you were just getting allocated there, is that right?
I don't know.
That's
Say it
right.
in English, one.
Huh? English?
That's pretty big words you're throwing around there.
The words I'm throwing around? Well, your sideburns had to be confused there. They get a little strained there. Who's ready? Ann?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay. Annie, do you like to be called Annie?
Well, lots of people do call me Annie.
Or do you think Ann sounds more dignified?
Well, my real name is Anna, but when I was about 10 years old, I decided that Anna sounded like a maid's name, and I didn't want to sound like that, so I changed it to Ann.
Oh, you want a little more dignified?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And you don't like Annie?
Pardon?
Annie?
I like Annie.
I do, too.
I don't like to be called Annie.
Don't you? I'd hate to be called some of the things
Yes,
you are at
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Oh, how I miss you tonight. Long before there was an Ann or an Annie, Oh, How I Miss You Tonight was being sung. Ned Moore from Sheboygan. Come up here, Ned, old boy. There he is. He's an 8th grader. In fact, the whole 8th grade of this particular school in Sheboygan is here this morning. What school is it?
Sheridan.
Yeah. Good to see you, Ned. How are things up in the old hometown?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad of that. Glad of that. Haven't been back there in quite some time since my folks moved down here to Evanston. 8th Street still booming, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Used to be a bakery with the same name as you have, Moore's Bakery. Is that any relation to you?
I don't know.
When I was
I'm not sure.
That was a long time ago. I guess you wouldn't remember. You remember 40 years ago?
No.
Yeah, I suppose you do. What's this that happened to you one day when you were walking along the Chicago, or the Sheboygan River?
Well, I dropped a handkerchief with my initials on into the water.
Into the water?
Mm-hmm.
And then, about a year later...
About a year later, I was swimming in the same river.
Yes.
And I thought I saw a fish.
Thank you very much, Ned. That's very interesting. You thought I was going to ask you about the handkerchief, did you? Yeah, fish, huh? It's good to talk to all of you. This proved absolutely nothing, of course, this quiz, except that there are some wonderful characters in high school these days. Lots of luck to all of you, wherever you go. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'll get back and sit down now. Say, while our Dick Noel is recovering from a bad throat, young Gary Mann here is pinch hitting for him. And I mentioned yesterday, Gary is more or less the legitimate type of singer, like you hear in so many Broadway musicals. Gary, while you're at it, how about singing that hymn that we had scheduled earlier? We didn't get to it then, but we would like to hear it while you're still around, and we are too this morning. How about it?
Fine.
All right.
But for the grace of God, there'd be no summer, and spring would be a long forgotten tree. The frozen hand of winter would clutch at every heart, and ice would still the laughter of the stream. But for the grace of God, the shoots would wither, and new ones wouldn't rise to take their place. An everlasting darkness would settle on the earth and never, never lift its gloomy face. But God is kind. He gave us beauty. He gave us all the earth to command. And God is wise. He made us able to think, to create and understand. So let us bow our heads and thank Him and beg Him our sins to forgive. For it's only by the grace of God our Father that we live. For it's only by the grace of God our Father that we
Thank you so much, Gary. I believe you introduced that some time ago on the Breakfast Club, did you not?
Yes, last time I appeared.
Which was,
A year and a half ago, I think, or 2 years.
Yeah, good for you. It's a good one.
Oh, Lux
your breakfast lovers, present our meeting. Once again tomorrow, you'll hear our greeting.
Yes, sir. We'll be at the same old spot tomorrow, and I hope you will be, too. Until then, your Toastmaster, Don McNeill, and all the gang say so long, and be good to yourself.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
This is Orson Welles just saying hello before the show starts. There's a full moon tonight. February 11th is the anniversary of the day Thomas Alva Edison was born. He invented the incandescent lamp, only to discover years later that Spencer Tracy had beat him to it. Welcome to your radio almanac, ladies and gentlemen.
At the sign of the Flying Red Horse. Tonight and every night at the same time, over these same stations, the makers of Mobile Gas and Mobile Oil bring you Orson Welles. Jack Mather speaking. Our guest tonight comes to us with the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producer of the great hit Madam Curie. Ladies and gentlemen, Ann Sothern.
Hello, Ann.
Hello, Orson. You know, I don't mind telling you I'm scared stiff.
I'm scared stiff? Why?
Well, aren't you going to saw me in half?
Oh, no, the OPA put a stop to that. They said I was wasting too many women. I'm not just a magician, Ann. I'm a romantic lover.
Oh.
You know, of course, I don't believe it, but they do say that compared to me, Sinatra is just a Boy Scout.
He may be a Boy Scout, but a lot of Girl Scouts belong to his troop.
Well, don't get me wrong, Ann. I'm not envious. As a matter of fact, in my next Mercury Theater production, I've been thinking of doing Romeo and Juliet with Frank Sinatra as Romeo.
Really?
Yes. Can't you just hear him singing on the balcony as Juliet climbs up to him?
Orson, I don't want to criticize an old Shakespearean authority like you, but Juliet stands on the balcony and Romeo climbs up to her.
I know, but Sinatra would never make it. Now, look, Ann, we're doing a scene later, and you'll find out how romantic I am.
Well, if we're going to do a scene together, I'd better give you a couple of pointers.
Pointers?
Yes, now let me show you. Now, put your arms around me.
My arms around you like this?
Uh-huh. Now, say something romantic.
Oh, my darling. What's funny about that? Oh, my darling. I love you with an equatorial passion. You ought to see me in Jane Eyre. I love you with an equatorial passion that no thermometer can register. Oh, my darling, pardon me, Ann. Hello? Oh, hello, dear. What? We're only acting. Of course I don't mean it. Honestly, she was only teaching me something. Oh, I know you can. But You know I do. I said you know. I said you know I do. I can't say it now. There are people listening. I say there are people listening. Oh, please don't be angry. I'll call you later. Goodbye.
Who was that?
My laundry man.
Oh, yes, you've got to be awfully nice to them these days. Now, let's go on. You were saying...
Ah, yes. Darling, oh, yes.
You were saying...
Thank you for giving it to me again. I'll try it once more. Darling, I've endeavored to conceal a passion who's in it. You should see me in Jane Eyre. I don't do this. I've endeavored to conceal a passion whose inner fires are broiling the very soul within me. I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Oh, it says in the script that you will.
Hello? Oh, it's okay. I'll tell him. Orson, your laundryman says he's going home to his mother.
She's always kidding that way.
I'll bet. Now, come on, Orson. Make like Sinatra. Kiss me.
All right, I will.
Orson, who is this character?
This is Mr. P. Bristle, the censor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wells, but you can't kiss Ann Sothern like that.
Why? You know a better way?
He's not allowed to kiss anybody that close to a microphone.
Why not?
Well, the voice is too romantic.
Mr. P. Bristle, what...
P. Bristle.
P. Bristle. Whatever gave you the idea that his voice is romantic?
Well, now, just read this letter.
Dear sir, whenever Orson Welles speaks, I get goose pimples, signed Bella.
Bella, what's the address?
602 Beverly Drive.
Just as I thought. Bella Lugosi.
Well, I have additional proof. Let me show you. Would you three young ladies please step up on the stage? That's right this way. All right, Mr. Wells, say something romantic.
You mean, like this? Darling, I love you.
Orson, pick 'em up.
Are they kidding? You girls don't really think I'm romantic, do you?
It's you. Wait, it's another Mickey Rooney.
Look, girls, it's ridiculous. Anyone feeling this way about me.
You send us, Wellesley. He's a killer. Solid, Jack.
You see, I wasn't lying. Now, go on, say something romantic.
Say something romantic, like I adore you.
Wellesley, pick us up.
I can't understand it.
That's because you're a man.
Thanks.
How would you feel if you heard Hedy Lamarr say, I love you?
Anne, pick me up.
Oh, girls, can I join the club, too?
Yeah. Just sing the theme song with us here. When we heard Frank Sinatra, we all gave out with yells.
Gave out with yells.
But we're through with Sinatra. Now we swoon for Orson Welles.
For Orson Welles.
Our lives were oh so useless, like boats without the oars.
Without the oars.
But now our life's worth living
when he says obediently yours.
Shoo, shoo, baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Bye, 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 baby. Papa's off to the seven seas. Don't cry, baby. Don't sigh, baby. Bye, 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 baby. When I get back, we'll live life for thee. Seems kind of tough now to say goodbye this way. Papa's gonna get rough now so that he can be sweet to you another day. Don't cry, pretty baby, don't you sigh, my little baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Papa's off to the seven seas. bye, baby. Don't sigh, baby. Bye, 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 baby. Papa's off to the 7th sea.
That was Johnny Horace taking the vocal, everybody. Did you like him? Tell me, folks, did you know this? Gasoline for cars is made by blending light and heavy elements. The heavy are for mileage, the light for snappy starts and rapid getaway. Today, some of these lighter, quick-starting elements have gone into gasoline for tanks and planes and ships. And I know that's okay by you. Fortunately, mileage is what matters most these days. And 1944 Mobil Gas will give you all the mileage that you got from peacetime Mobil Gas. We're proud to say that. What's more, Mobil Gas can help you get better all-round wartime driving if you'll just follow these simple tips. First, warm up a shivering motor for 30 seconds. That does away with stalling. Second, don't tramp on your accelerator. Step down gently. This will save you gasoline. Third, keep your battery in good shape to turn your engine over quickly. And when you start up, start with Mobil Gas. It's packed with every wartime mile it's possible to give you. Folks, you'll get your coupons worth when you drive in at the sign of the Flying Red Horse and get trustworthy, mile-worthy Mobil Gas. We bring you now a story of a boy and a girl. The boy, Joe, is employed as a welder at Pacific Shipyards. The girl, Betty,
is played by Ann Sothern.
Is employed as a welder at the same shipyard. As was to be expected, Joe and Betty met, and after a whirlwind courtship, they were married. We find them now on the threshold of the little bungalow Joe has rented.
There it is, baby.
Oh, it's beautiful, Joe.
Well, up to Daisy. Here you go.
Well, don't drop me. It's bad luck.
Oh, this is the living room.
Mm-hmm.
There's the dinette.
Oh.
And the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And the bathroom. And, there's another room in through there.
I hope it's got a nice gas range. I just love to cook.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Yeah. Nice in here, isn't it? Who is this Arthur Lake?
Yes, it is nice.
Still love me?
Well, do you still love me?
You know I do.
Well, here we are.
Yes, we certainly are. Nice of them to give you the afternoon off so we could get married.
Yes, if they hadn't, we couldn't have.
Couldn't have what?
Got married.
That's true.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
You can put me down now, dear.
Oh, sure. I wonder what time it is.
Oh, it's early, about 8 o'clock.
Will you excuse me, dear?
Yes, certainly.
I'll be back in a minute, as soon as I unpack my bag.
Well, I'll unpack mine, too. I think I'll wear this blue one. Oh, darling.
Yes?
Will you knock before you come in?
In a minute.
Andre?
Blue, my favorite color.
Joe, what kind of pajamas are those?
Those aren't pajamas, they're overalls.
Overalls?
Yes, didn't I tell you? I'm on the night shift. See you in the morning, hon.
Oh, yes. Joe forgot to mention he's on the night shift, and Betty's on the day shift. They see each other 15 minutes a day. So let's take an average evening. Betty is just coming in the front door.
Darling. Oh, darn that Ovaltine. I haven't got the heart to wake him up. Of course, if I dropped my lunchbox, he'd wake up by himself. Oh, no, it'd be mean just to drop a lunchbox. And yet, if it was on the edge of this table and I was looking for something else and accidentally pushed it with my elbow.
Okay, boys, launch her.
Darling, wind you up.
Oh, turn the light out, will you, dear? I'm tired.
Oh, but this is practically our honeymoon. Can't you be romantic even for a little while?
Romantic, darling. I love you with an equatorial passion that no thermometer can register. Now leave me alone. I'm sleepy.
I never should have married you. People told me you were no good.
What people?
Hedda Hopper!
Let me sleep.
Oh, you're a beast. That's what you are. You only think of your own comfort.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
Here I've been welding for 8 hours, and I want a little home life.
Oh, now, baby, don't cry. Darling, you mustn't cry. Honey, please don't cry. You know I love you. Oh, shut up.
I'm going home to Mother.
Oh, now, wait, honey. I didn't mean it. I lost my temper.
Then say it.
Say it. Oh, I don't want to say it, dear. It's silly.
No, say it. Say what you promised to say every time you lost your temper.
I'm sorry I lost my temper, and if I ever lose it again, I hope Shorty drops a hot rivet in my back pocket and... Oh, this is silly.
Go on, finish it.
Oh, hot rivet in my back pocket, and if I ever say a harsh word to you again, I hope all my teeth fall out except one, and that one I hope I have a toothache. There, I said it.
Oh, Joe. Joe, kiss me.
You bet I will. Hey, what time is it?
Oh, Joe, it's only 8 o'clock. Kiss me.
I've got 5 minutes to dress and 1 minute for coffee. That leaves me 15 seconds. Here. How's that?
Same old trouble. Too little and too late.
2 weeks pass. It is morning. Joe is just returning from work.
Honey. Up, 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 up.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, the sun is shining. The birds are singing.
Tell them to shut up.
Well, I must say, this is a nice greeting.
Mm-hmm.
People work hard all day, and when they come home, they deserve a little relaxation.
I'm relaxing, dear.
Relaxing? You're sleeping.
No, I'm not. I'm wide awake.
You've got your eyes closed.
No, they're open, dear. I've just got the lids over them.
What kind of a home life is this? I thought marriage meant love and companionship and...
I know just how you feel, dear, but now I'm sleepy.
Well, go ahead and sleep. If that's your idea of a happily married life, go ahead, sleep.
Ouch! You struck me, and while my back was turned.
Well, it didn't hurt you that much. You're well insulated.
Oh, and insulting me now.
Well, you started it. You were sleeping when I came in.
But you're always sleeping when I come in.
Yeah, but you overdo it. You look contented when you sleep.
Well, I can't help the way I look when I sleep. I don't get up to look at myself to see how I look when I sleep.
This is no way to live. You working in the day and me working at night. How we're ever going to bring up a family, assuming by some miracle we were to have one. Kids never see you all day, and at night they'd be asleep. I don't want them to call me Mama.
Well, what about me? I've got a husband I see 15 minutes a day. Well, I know the milkman better.
Oh, you do? Well, let me tell you something.
Now, you listen to me.
I put up with a lot. I don't like your talking to me.
About a sound sleep.
Case 24850, Mrs. W.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Anthony. Mr. Anthony, I've been married for 3 months now. My husband is...
Don't mention any names, please.
My husband works in the night shift, and I work on the day shift, and the only time that...
Young lady, you must find more time to spend with your husband.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Then my advice to you is to go home. Go home to your husband.
But my husband isn't home now. You see, he works...
Just where is your husband, Mrs. W?
He's working. He works on the night shift.
I see. How long has your husband been telling you he works on the night shift?
Since the day we got married, we didn't even have a honeymoon.
Oh. Then my advice to you is to go home. Go home to your husband. speak to him.
But that's impossible, Mr. Anthony. We only see each other a few minutes a day. You see, he works on the night shift, and
Then my advice to you is to go home. Go home to your husband.
Hello, Mother. I was just going to call you. I've got the most wonderful news. I finally got them to change me to the night shift. Oh, there's Joe, Mother. I'll call you back.
Honey.
Joe, I've got the most wonderful news.
Betty, I've only got a minute. Gotta get right back to the yard. Darling, I've been changed to the day shift. You know, a lot of Lionel Barrymore's admirers don't know that he's a composer of music. And he wrote us something special for this program. He really did, no? It's not even supposed to be funny. And according to last week's promise, here it is. We think very highly of it. Carnival by Lionel Barrymore, Maestro Lud Gluskin. Very fine, Lud. You know, I think Mr. Barrymore really has a future, don't you? I'm sure Lionel Barrymore listening in. Hello? Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Lionel. Oh, you couldn't have liked it that much. Oh, the trumpet. The third trumpet player. I'll tell him. Goodbye. Lud, Lionel says your third trumpet player was only using one lip.
Friends, we're driving to a different tune today. We don't go far. We can't go fast. And lots of the time, our cars are idle. Consequently, it's much harder for the battery to hold its strength. In fact, a brand new battery loses half its charge in just 1 month of idleness. Now, don't let your battery run down. You know the well-known moan of the motorist, "Darn car is stuck, my battery's dead." Well, that won't happen if you'll pay a visit to a certain fellow first. Your friendly mobile gas dealer. Let him double-check your battery and cables. Ask him to recharge that battery. Yep, your mobile gas dealer is your man. Have him check connections and the terminals to make certain they're not frayed or rusted. Top-notch battery service. That's what you'll get. To save yourself cuss words and start your car at all times pronto, drive in soon. Tomorrow, at the sign of the Flying Red Horse.
Clothes, furniture, books, the household goods were packed in boxes and trunks. Family had taken rooms in the Chenery house. The old cottage home was gone, leased. The horse, buggy, and cow were sold off. At the hotel, he'd roped his trunks himself and had written, A. Lincoln, the White House, Washington, D.C. On cards he fastened on the trunks. He was going to the biggest home in the country, the hardest house in the country to live in. The Atlantic seaboard was the front yard, the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific slope, the colossal backyard. His body, the feet and mouth of him, would be in the White House eating 3 meals a day and taking a bath every so often. But the heart and mind of him would have to be far away, roaming the immense front yard and backyard, where there were boys fighting, girls scratching each other's faces, children sticking their tongues out, calling nasty names at each other. He was to be the father. The Red Indians would actually call him the Great Father. Negroes would call him Master. And punctilious white men would use the address, Your Excellency. He would be the supreme counselor of the American people. Good God, what a job. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12th, the day before his 52nd birthday. He left his home in Illinois for Washington. A cold drizzle of rain was falling. Lincoln and his party were to leave Springfield on the 8 o'clock at the Great Western Railway Station. Chilly gray mist hung on the circle of the prairie horizon. One by one came hundreds of old friends shaking hands, wishing him luck and good speed. All faces solemn. On the platform of the car, he turned and saw his home people. Then he said slowly, amid the soft gray drizzle from the sky, Friends, no one who's never been placed in a like position can understand my feelings at this hour, nor the oppressive sadness I feel at this parting. For more than a quarter of a century, I've lived among you, and during all that time, I've received nothing but kindness at your hands. Here I've lived from my youth till now I'm an old man. Here the most sacred trusts of earth were assumed. Here all my children were born. Here one of them lies buried. To you, dear friends, I owe all that I have, all that I am. All the strange checkered past seems to crowd now upon my mind. Today I leave you. I go to assume a task more difficult than that which devolved upon General Washington. Unless the great God who assisted him shall be with me and aid me, I must fail. But if the same omniscient mind and the same almighty arm that directed and protected him shall guide and support me, I shall not fail. I shall succeed. Let us all pray that God of our fathers may not forsake us now. With these few words, I must leave you. For how long, I know not. Friends, one and all, I must now bid you an affectionate farewell. Bells rang, there was a grinding of wheels, and the train moved and carried Lincoln away from Springfield. The tears were not yet dry on some faces, and the train had faded into the gray to the east. Some of the crowd said afterwards that Lincoln, too, was in tears. But tears ran down his face as he spoke that morning. And one of the crowd said there were no tears on Lincoln's face. He had a face with dry tears, said this one. He was a man who often had dry tears.
of Mobile Gas and Mobile Oil invite you to join us next week, same time, same station. Dr. Wells' special guest is Robert Benchley. Right, Dr. Wells?
Right, Mr. Mather. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, all of us in the Mercury Theater remain, as always, obediently yours.
Mr. Wells read from Carl Sandburg's Prairie Years, published by Harcourt Brace. Jack Mather speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.